Iran continues to seek expansion of its influence in the Middle East, despite the degradation to its proxies and defenses during the Gaza conflict. Iran has developed and maintains ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and UAVs, including systems capable of striking U.S. targets and allies in the region. Tehran has shown a willingness to use these weapons, including during a 2020 attack on U.S. forces in Iraq and in attacks against Israel in April and October 2024. Iran's cyber operations and capabilities also present a serious threat to U.S. networks and data. The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program. In the past year, we've seen an erosion of a decades-long taboo in Iran on discussing nuclear weapons in public, likely emboldening nuclear weapons advocates within Iran's decision-making apparatus. Iran's enriched uranium stockpile is at its highest levels and is unprecedented for a state without nuclear weapons. Iran will likely continue efforts to counter Israel and press for U.S. military withdrawal from the region by aiding, arming, and helping to reconstitute its loose consortium of like-minded terrorists and militant actors, which it refers to as its axis of resistance. Although weakened, this collection of actors still presents a wide range of threats, including to Israel's population, U.S. forces deployed in Iraq and Syria, and to U.S. and international military and commercial shipping and transit.
Hello, everyone. Hold on, let me make sure you can hear me. Let me make sure everything is good. How are we doing? What's up, everybody? What's up to YouTube? What is up to Facebook? And what is up Twitter? Well, y'all see the title. Y'all see, you know what's going on. It's going to be a great show. Welcome to Monday Night Lights. I am Keisha King Benton. What we do over here, we are lighting the world with truth. And we're going to need a lot of that truth today because a fellow conservative, I think she's a Christian, Candace Owens. So she has been talking a lot, obviously, over the last couple of years about Israel and the Jews and, and now we got Iran and, all of these things. And I was listening to some of her recent takes, and I found some kind of disturbing stuff. Now, I don't watch Candace Owens like that. Like, I don't watch her that often. But, all this stuff, when these things come up, I am curious, like, what is she saying? What is she doing? What's she talking about over there? We do have a special guest tonight. We are going to have Mr. Chuck Littleton. He will be joining us. Hey, Antonice. Hi, Karen. Hi, William. Hello, Paul. Welcome. Please share this out, like this, share it out, please, guys, because people just it's hard to find, this content. We compete with all the big news media. So please share this out. Please give it a like if you want to. And if you find what we do over here valuable, it really does help. For Christians, tonight's episode, for Christians and conservatives, tonight's episode is really, really important. So I'm going to need you to first remove any let's give everybody a blank slate. Let's look at people for what they're saying. Let's look at Candace. Let's look at just her words. Let's not think about what she said in the past, how we felt about her in the past, how we feel about her in the present. Let's just look at what she says. Okay? Exactly, Antonice. Let's facts over feelings. Let's do that. I know that's going to be hard for some people because when you find somebody that shares your values, especially in this this climate, it can be hard to, when you hear them say things that don't line up. I have defended Candace many a day, even when it wasn't popular to do so, because I felt like, she, at this point in time, wasn't she wasn't doing anything too crazy. Let her figure it out. Let her give her a little bit of space. She was younger. A lot was going on. This newfound thing, all of that. Give her some grace. That was what my thing. Keisha, you're crazy. Oh, I can tell. I'm like, I don't know her. Let's see. Now, when she became a Christian, my I became a bit more critical. It's like, okay, so now you're moving more into my world. Christian, my faith comes before everything. So she's a fellow believer now. So she says so. I'm like, okay, cool. But Candace Owens doesn't know what she's talking about. Okay, I'm sorry, she doesn't know what she's talking about, and she is just so wrong on so many things at this point. And she's leading millions of people, millions, down this crazy path that she's on. And we're going to talk about the things that she's telling her 4 million subscribers. That's just on YouTube. The millions of people that she, quote unquote, influences are listening to her and believing her and thinking that what she says is correct. Now, she says some stuff. I'm listening to her last night. I'm like, y'all, this girl is good. Because what she says up front, it really does sound like it could be the truth. It really sounds like it could be reasonable. But when you actually listen to what she be saying, it doesn't make any sense. And if you really listen, you'll notice she does not really provide the supporting facts and evidence behind what she's saying, like she pretends to do. And we're just gonna do one. Like I just, this was just one. There's a few, but this was one that was really obvious. Now, my main focus as I'm talking to you before our guest comes on is primarily going to be about her biblical, the biblical part of what she's saying. My guest, Mr. Teachum Chuck Littleton, is going to come on, and he's going to do more of the political side. We're going to talk more about the Iran stuff. But this particular clip where I want to show you where she has to, it could be nothing else but an intentional manipulation, intentional deceit. She intentionally deceives her audience with this clip. Let's get into it. Y'all sit back, get your popcorn, because this is a problem. All right. So she says that, listen to what she says about Tulsi Gabbard. This was 6 days ago. That is important. This clip I'm about to show you was live on her channel 6 days ago.
So we elected him in 2016. We elected him again in 2024, more or less the exact same mandate. And like I said, we were excited, especially when Tulsi Gabbard became the director of national intelligence, right? And I'm not kidding when I say that 8 weeks ago in March, she testified before Congress that Iran did not appear to be building a nuclear bomb. This was 8 weeks ago, you guys. Take a listen.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program.
Okay. So I heard that and I was like, oh, wow. Somebody says I'm a neocon. Okay. Let's see. So when you hear that, now Amalek Shackelberg, this person in the chat is calling me a neocon. Probably because you've been listening to Candace Owens, and everybody's a neocon if you don't agree with what they're saying. But if Amalek Shackelberg, if you care to be right, if you want to know the facts, and you care more about facts than feelings and who you support and all that, this might change your mind. Now, what Tulsi Gabbard just said, it sounds like we've been duped. Tulsi Gabbard said that Iran was not, they did not have nuclear weapons. They weren't building nuclear weapons, right? Isn't that what it sounds like Tulsi said? Here is more of that very same clip at her confirmation hearing. Let's look at the whole thing.
Iran continues to seek expansion of its influence in the Middle East, despite the degradation to its proxies and defenses during the Gaza conflict. Iran has developed and maintains ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and UAVs, including systems capable of striking U.S. targets and allies in the region. Tehran has shown a willingness to use these weapons, including during a 2020 attack on U.S. forces in Iraq and in attacks against Israel in April.
Wait a minute. Wait. Now. Oh, wait. Can you guys not? Is my internet not right? Am I not? Is my internet not working? Hold on, let me. Let's see. Am I good? What's up? Hey, Jesus loves you. Am I buff? Okay, I'm good now. All right. So, okay, cool. Thank you, Anthony's. So now I done lost my train of thought. Let's rewind just a second. Okay, let's rewind. So let's listen.
Iran continues to seek expansion of its influence in the Middle East, despite the degradation to its proxies and defenses during the Gaza conflict.
What did she say?
Iran continues to seek expansion of its influence in the Middle East.
Iran seeks to expand its influence in the Middle East. Now, what kind of influence? What has Iran been up to? What are they continuing? Is it funding the Houthis? Funding these terrors? But Candace says Iran is chilling, okay? Iran isn't bothering anybody. They're not building any nuclear weapons. Okay, let's continue.
Despite the degradation to its proxies and defenses during the Gaza conflict, Iran has developed and maintains ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and UAVs, including systems capable of striking U.S. targets and allies in the region.
So they're currently developing weapons that can strike us, then can strike our allies. That happens to be Israel. That is in their part of the world. So they're moving. They're doing something. They got plans.
Iran has shown a willingness to use these weapons, including during a 2020 attack on U.S. forces in Iraq and in attacks against Israel in April and October 2024. Iran's cyber operations and capabilities also present a serious threat to U.S. networks and data. The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program.
Now that's where Candace stopped it. She played that part there that says the Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear plan that he ended in 2003. So he has not, because there are procedures when a country gets a nuclear weapon, or if you're building a nuclear weapon, you're supposed to, you talk to your neighbors, you talk to other countries, you let them know, because this is a big deal when a country is building a nuclear weapon, especially Iran. But that's the part where that's exactly where she cut off. Let's finish listening.
In the past year, we've seen an erosion of a decades-long taboo in Iran on discussing nuclear weapons in public, likely emboldening nuclear weapons advocates within Iran's decision-making apparatus.
What was that now? Hold on, let's rewind.
Nuclear weapons advocates. We've seen an erosion of a decades-long taboo in Iran on discussing nuclear weapons in public.
Okay, so that diplomatic approach of we're going to be talking to our neighbors, we're going to be discussing, we're going to be open and honest about what we're doing over here. She's saying they've stopped doing that. All right.
Likely emboldening nuclear weapons advocates within Iran's decision-making apparatus.
And because they have started being more secretive, it is emboldened their nuclear, the talk around nuclear weapons.
Iran's enriched uranium stockpile is at its highest levels and is unprecedented for a state without nuclear weapons.
Boom. Okay. Y'all, 1 second. Let me, hold on. Okay. All right. So I wanted to, I had to fix some stuff over here. Listen, just because I think we need to understand there's processes to developing nuclear weapons. There are, there's diplomacy processes. There's protocols and expectations, things that you're supposed to do when you're doing something like building a nuclear weapon. Iran has stopped doing those things. However, they have so much uranium that they couldn't possibly be doing any other thing but building a nuclear weapon, even though they haven't gathered all the components to actively build that weapon. They are assembling and acquiring the products to build it. To me, and from what I can understand, to just about every other military person, is the same thing as actively building one. Because once they have like 60%, and this was back in March. And so clearly, if Candace really wanted to get to the bottom of this, she could have dug just like I did to see, like, okay, what's really going on here? Because why is Tulsi Gabbard? Why is that part of the clip being played? Then you go to look at this, y'all. If Israel can have 90 over nuclear warheads, the only country in violation of this so-called law, why you only bring out Iran, which do not have any nuclear warheads at all? Why the double standard? The double standard is because Iran supports terrorism. Do you want a country that is cool with terrorists having a nuclear weapon if they don't mind blowing up somebody, strapping a bomb to somebody's chest? Do you think they would think twice about, I don't know, sending a nuclear bomb to blow up other countries? I don't think so. I know that might be a stretch for you, Arresto. It's not a stretch for me. Okay, it's not a stretch for people who think like Iranians. Here's another thing. Israel can have Israel's culture, their beliefs are not Iran's. These are two different types of people groups. They don't believe the same things. Okay? But look at what Tulsi tweeted. Because if you really wanted to get to the bottom of what is going on, I think you would probably, I don't know, research. She's a journalist, isn't she? Isn't Candace a journalist? I'm sure she has access to all the best researchers in the world. She could, she is not incapable. She has the capability to get all types of research that she wants to. Let's just go to Tulsi's X page. Let's just start there. Maybe we'll find something. Let's see. Look at this. Okay. So this is, she had been getting people trying to say that she didn't agree and stand with Trump because she is known as anti-war. Okay. But let's look at her X page. Where is it here? Okay. So people have been saying she's lying, she's not standing with Trump. This was June 20th. So by the time Candace had posted her misleading clip, this is what was on Tulsi's page. She said, let me see if I can get it where you guys can see it. She says, the dishonest media is intentionally taking my testimony out of context and spreading fake news as a way to manufacture division. America has intelligence that Iran is at the point that it can produce a nuclear weapon within weeks to months if they decide to finalize the assembly. That's what she was talking. You have to assemble. You got to get all the pieces, and then put the building of those pieces is actually when you are building the nuclear weapon. So there's distinct differences in the process of to even get to building. They assess whether you are how close you are to getting the nuclear weapon by how much you have assembled, how much uranium you have. Do you have the missiles in order to launch these things? Like, there's all these different components. You can't just call up Amazon to get uranium. It's not that easy, okay? Like, there's legitimate processes for these things. So she says, if they decide to finalize the assembly, President Trump has been clear that can happen, and I agree. Why Candace didn't put this part in there? Why would she? She's been so Tulsi. Oh, I'm so Tulsi. I'm for all the people who are non-war. I don't want war because I'm so virtuous, and all of you out there are murderers. All of you, that's all you want to do. You and Bibi Netanyahu, that's all y'all want to do is just murder people. Okay, you're just a bunch of murderers. Why didn't you include this piece in your commentary to let people know, to give people the full context? Why wouldn't you do that? I think if you listen to Candace Owens, you really need to listen to her and fact check that woman so you are not led astray. This is just it's a big deal because this is talking about war and all these kinds of things, but this is tarnishing Tulsi Gabbard's, and I'm not even like, I honestly, I don't even particularly, I'm not gonna say I don't rock with Tulsi, but I'm just not, I don't pay her that much attention. But if Candace has bigged her up and said how great and wonderful she is, you willing to throw her name and her reputation under the bus by not taking into full context everything she said? That's messed up. That's low down and dirty. And when people do stuff like that and they show you who they are, believe them. Let's move on because I got to get my good friend, Mr. Teach Him Chuck, in here. Hold on. Let me see what's going on here. Okay. He's waiting on me. I'm getting there, friend. I'm coming up right now. Okay. Do y'all hear me? Is everything good in the chat? Are we good? Let me know. I'm just trying to make sure, because I have, I've tried to record and stuff before, and then I find out people can't hear me, and I don't see new comments. So has me a little concerned. So if y'all could just put a 1 or something in the chat so I know that everything is rolling good here. Okay, yes, you good. Okay, cool. All right. Thanks, Anthony. I'm sorry, y'all. All right, appreciate it. I don't want to be sitting here yapping and then I don't know, something happens. So here's the other thing Mrs. Owens said, or Mrs. Farmer, about the Bible. Now this is it's a bit of a longer clip, but just roll it in here.
And just so you know, the Bible does not command, and this is what Tucker Carlson is getting to in that clip, it absolutely does not command you to support the modern state of Israel. Like Genesis is pointing to the modern 1948 created state of Israel, and you must support it, despite the fact that it is very much involved in what can only be described as demonic behavior since its creation, right? And so you're going to ignore every other biblical passage. You're going to misinterpret this one. It's a dispensationalist heresy, which was factually funded by the World Zionist Congress. And we can do another episode on that as I present to you guys all of the evidence that what it guided the notations. This really stems from the Scofield Bible, the heresy of the Scofield Bible. Scofield himself was an absolute fraud who got funded and was overseas and alleges that he wrote all of these notes in the Bible and is telling people how to read their Bibles. The first time that notations were put underneath the passages. So this is what Genesis says, and this is what it means. And this is how this heresy arrived in America. Then somehow this guy is able to, it becomes the most printed book, and Oxford Press gets behind it because like a random pastor, you get the idea here. It was very much a funded effort to have Christians misunderstand the Bible. And Ted Cruz is one of these Christians. And so he says this is number one reason that he supports what they're doing. So he is willing to support the criminality of Benjamin Netanyahu because he's just in the land of Israel. He's saying it's the nation state of Israel. By that argument, if suddenly the current Israelis in Israel all left and we put in a bunch of Iranians, then he would say the same thing because it's a place, right? So Ted Cruz would say, my Bible commands me, I will be blessed if I bless those who bless Israel. He's talking about a place, a physical place, and anybody could be in there and he would back it. It's an absolute nonsense for him to suggest this. And like I said, it's also a theological disaster. And it's so important for people to learn the history, the true history of the Scofield Bible and this sort of modern dispensationalist belief, which has been so toxic to our foreign policy and has been pushed in large part. It's even the hyphening of Judeo-Christian values. I'm a Christian. I'm not Jewish. I am a Christian. My values are Christian. And frankly, you should believe that a country which has involved itself as Israel has in blackmail, in murder, in bombing children, in murdering and starving women and children to get what it wants, the deception. And I mean, you could talk about it on a widespread level. You could talk about it on a historical level. You could talk about it on a molecular or a personal level. It is like a requirement to support Zionism. You just have to lie. You have to lie like all the time. I mean, they are just every day pushing this idea that I'm funded by Qatar. Not a shred of proof. It's completely false. It is untrue. And they say it every day because they have no other arguments. All they have to do is keep hoping that people like Senator Ted Cruz, especially if they're being funded by AIPAC, will completely misinterpret the Genesis and believe that no matter what, they have to support the policies of Bibi Netanyahu.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let me see if I'm missing it. Okay. Here's the thing, guys. Let's start here. How did Israel come to be? The people and the nation. Israel came to be because the King of the universe, God Almighty, made this place for them to go when they left Egypt, right? I think everybody is aware of Exodus, them coming out of Egypt. I think we're aware that where the promised land that they got Who gave it to him? God. Literally, God gave it to him. Told them where to go, sent them there, told them that was theirs. And what were they chosen to do? What were they chosen to do? Because, you know, she talks about this being chosen as if being chosen automatically means that is, you know, an easy thing, that is easy, is good. It depends on what I'm being chosen for. Because somebody could choose you, but I'm choosing you to be the one that's got to die tonight. You know, you could be chosen for a lot of stuff for a lot of different reasons. Because just because you're called or chosen does not mean that is good. Even when you're called by God, it's good, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be that it's going to be easy, that it's going to be without hardship, that it's not going to be, you know, that it's going to be without responsibility and all these types of things. But what were they chosen to do? What were Jews chosen? Jacob, Israel, God calls Jacob, Abraham's son. Hey, Lady B. God calls Israel's son, God calls Jacob, Abraham's son, Israel. Because he wants you to understand it's a people and it's a nation. Because the nation is important. Why? Why? The whole reason is because of Jesus. That's the reason that God chose a people for his son to come through. The whole reason that the Jews are called the chosen people is for God to send his only begotten son through these people. That's the reason that they're chosen. A group of people that God knew would reject his son. All of this is important in our salvation story. All of this is important to Christian history and understanding God's purpose of us and Jesus being in the earth. You can't get away from the Jews. Our Savior is Jew. Let me show you what I tweeted. To be chosen is the thing of idolatry, but whether a deed to be done. Thank you, pretty lady. A lot of Jews, you're right. A lot of Jews don't even, they don't want to be the chosen ones. If you ever listen to them, they don't want to be the chosen ones. It's a hard call. That's a lot of responsibility. Look at how people treat them. Who the freak would want that? My goodness. But this is what I tweeted. Oh, I'll just read it off of here. I said, Christianity is not a Gentile invention. Okay, Candace. Okay, all you other people who think that you want to puff your chest up because God was so gracious enough to offer salvation to even you. You think that because you knew you had the opportunity and you accepted the free gift of salvation that you're special? How are you any different? How is the Candace before, you say you switched over to Christianity? How is that Candace different than the Jews who don't know Christ? Neither one of y'all knew Christ. I didn't know Christ before salvation. And what does the Bible say? He said, yeah, it was y'all was drinking, y'all was partying, y'all was doing all this crazy stuff, or people are doing all, and such were some of you. Yeah. You too, Candace. The sin that you were in, God looks at it the same way that the people who haven't accepted Christ. Nobody, unsaved people, whether you're Jewish or you a Gentile, you're still screwed when your time is called if you haven't accepted Christ. So you're boasting because you found Christ and other people haven't. But the Bible addresses that too, because Paul tells you, don't be so quick to boast. What does he say? Do not consider yourself to be superior to those branches. Remember, because they're the branch, and I'm sorry, they're the root, and we're the branches. Do not consider yourself to be so superior to those branches. You do not support the root, but the root supports you. Your whole foundation. That Candace says, I'm a Christian. Don't call me. I don't want to hear this Judeo-Christian, this hyphenated. I am a Christian. Okay, well, let me say. Christianity is not a Gentile invention. It's a Jewish fulfillment. Okay? Jesus was a Jew. All 12 apostles were Jews. The gospel was preached to the Jews first. Gentiles were grafted into a Jewish system. The entire Bible reflects a Jewish worldview with covenants, prophecy, festivals, and the Messiah, all rooted in the history of Israel. Understanding scripture requires honoring its Jewish context. And that's why twisting the Bible into modern, Western, progressive, woke, right ideologies leads to deception. This woman is lying to you. She don't quote not one scripture. She ain't trying to. Where is the call of the Jews to repent? This woman does not how is she, in what way is she showing you that she is a real believer, that her heart has been converted? In what way? I really feel like this woman has literally clung on to the name of Jesus, literally, so she could go and just harass Jewish people all day. Like, it's like, you don't quote scripture. You're never like, where is it that you're digging into the Bible to really draw nearer to God? Where is it that you're really trying to dig in so you can really see what this Christianity thing is all about? I don't hear that in nothing you say. Where is it? Where is the fruit? Because seems to me that this woman, all she really wants to do is kind of take a couple pieces, like she chopped up Tulsi's clip, and present to you the part that she thinks will fit what she already thinks and what she's trying to convince you to think. I don't think that this woman is trying to win souls. It sounds like she's trying to win subscribers. I could be wrong. But I'm not seeing the fruit. I've been in this thing for a while now, and you cannot be in your Bible and reading it and opening your heart to God for Him to come and complete this transformation, help you renew your mind, and not be transformed. You cannot sit under the Word of God and be the same if your heart posture is open to God. It won't happen. That word is alive and it changes you. You will speak different. You will be different. You won't be the same. She would start to how she's talking about this one group of people, it would start to convict her, not because they don't believe in Christ, but because that is not how we draw people to Christ. Because she would want, if she really understood Christianity, she would hope that nobody goes to hell. You will really, because when you understand what it is, that separation from a good God, a hell, a place where there is no goodness, there is no joy, there is no peace, there is nothing good in hell. She's not trying to help people see what that's all about and help them avoid hell. She's not trying to do that. I am saying to you, if you follow this woman and you have, thought that she has, been enlightening and is saying some great things, and she makes some great points, and it seems that this stuff that she's saying about Israel and the Jews, it seems kind of true. She don't know what she's talking about. I'm going to get to the Schofield thing because she really shouldn't have went there. Schofield was not some random pastor. You know what I'm saying? He was a man. He wasn't like a big deal or anything, but I know there are certain people that only unless they think you somebody, you ain't really nobody. But what he did, it wasn't even his own work. He was in seminary school, and there were a lot of people that wanted to know more about the Bible. She was right. There was no commentary, but it wasn't like he was rewriting the Bible. He was just giving explanations to help people understand the Bible. Now, he didn't change any of the major components. There was nothing in there of the major components of how you get saved, who Jesus is, nothing salvific. This whole thing, this dispensationalism and the covenant theology, replacement theology, whatever you want to call it, these are non-salvific issues that have been debated for hundreds of years. Jed says that Schofield publicized the dispensationalist commentary Bible, false hermeneutic and eschatology. That's debated. That is not confirmed. How do you say it? That is not settled Christian history. Many theologians, it doesn't matter. Unfortunately, dispensation has informed our politics. Yes, the Bible informs our politics. Without the commentary, it informs our politics. So what? I mean, these are opinions. These are opinions that neither side, the replacement theologists nor the dispensationalists, it is a debate because it is replacement theology. It actually sounds like the dispensationalists are more accurate because the replacement theology, when you get to the New Testament, suddenly all prophecy becomes just spiritual and allegorical. Nothing is literal anymore. So we went from literal prophecy to the replacement theology, saying, well, these are spiritual prophecies now. It's not real. They're just allegorical. He's just trying to show you he's trying to give you an example, but this is not really going to happen. Some people don't believe that, and they wouldn't be wrong to question that idea that it's just spiritual, because all throughout the rest of the Bible, it's been literal. So why does God just flip the switch now and it's crazy. Anyway, hopefully we'll have time to get back to that Schofield thing, because I really want to. I think we gotta debate me, bro, in the comments. Dispensationalism is blasphemy. Okay, prove it. Prove it, Amalek Shackelberg. How is dispensationalism blasphemy? How? How are you supposed to prove that? It's a theory. It's not fact. There is no evidence behind replacement theology. No, there is no historical, other than the Bible. I'm saying there's no neither one of them it goes back to Jesus's time. And I know people say, well, dispensationalism, covenant theology is what the early church, this is what the early church practiced. This is what the early church practiced. Just because the early church practiced it doesn't mean that they were right. It doesn't mean that they were right. So it could be wrong. Okay. Let's move on to the political side, because my friend Chuck is here and we ready to get into it. I know he is boiling. Y'all about to get her all the way together. Now, I've done the biblical side, but he gonna handle the political side, and I ain't gonna have nothing else to say. Of course, now my computer wants to be acting up, and hiding my screens here. Let's see. 1 second, y'all. I'm coming. I got Lord have mercy. Y'all, I tell you, if it's not one thing, it is another. My screen just went out and all my stuff is stuck over here on my screen. Hold on. I gotta get it back up so I can move it over so this stops happening. Let's see if I got anything else. Need to make sure. Okay. I apologize. Forgive me. My good friend, Mr. Teacher Chuck.
How you doing?
I'm trying to keep my calm. You know, these hot flashes aren't helping with with all of this foolishness going on. Cause baby, this thing got me hot.
Yeah. Nah, but you I watched it. I've been watching. I've been sitting back watching. You've been doing your thing.
Well,
You've been doing your thing. Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I was in my bathroom and I happened to, of course, I heard all the stuff that had happened over the last couple of days, the bombing, and and then Candace's a clip of hers that came across my feed, and then I went over. I was like, well, let me watch the whole thing because I'm always trying to I don't want to do nobody wrong, like
Yeah.
and because it didn't. I'm like, I didn't know. Like, maybe I'm missing something. Let me go check. I go looking at, and you should have seen my face as she was talking. I'm like this. I can't tell you what. I mean, this is what I said. I said, this witch. I said witch. I didn't say. I said this witch is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think she really has gone off the deep end with this Jewish thing. Like, some of the stuff she's saying is just absolutely asinine.
Yeah. Well, she's not. Well, that's the thing. I mean, she's not bright. She never was all that bright. And that's what people do. That's what posers do. Posers fall in line with conspiratorial type thinking. And this idea, I mean, if you are if you have a conspiratorial mindset, you will eventually work your way to the Jews, and the Jews being behind everything, and the Jews manipulating world events and such and so forth. That is where you eventually end up when you have this conspiratorial mind, because you're not a real thinker, right? And you're someone who's pretending to be heroic, right? You want to try and appease your heroic impulse, right? That inner need to be great, that inner need to be someone, that inner need to be remembered. Because deep down in the recesses of her mind, and this is true with her, this is true of Tucker Carlson, this is true of many of the other folks that you see online, this is true of all of them. Deep down inside, right? In order to save face, because they know, they instinctively know cowardice is an immoral act. They know that. And so in their minds, they believe the threat of Islam is real. But for them, you see, it mustn't be so, because for me to have to stand up to that, you see, that's what I really fear. So when I play this game to make it seem as though that there's something else really going on behind the scenes that's causing all of this, then that way, if I can rhetorically stand up to something that I'm just making up out of whole cloth, then that way I will have successfully convinced myself that I'm fighting the good fight, that I'm doing a moral thing. When you're not.
To that part too, because yeah.
And because you was cooking talking about the this Bible and theology, and when you were speaking too, I promise you, I was thinking about Paul, in a lot of Paul's messages. And remember, Paul, he was speaking to those who claimed to be followers of Jesus.
Yes.
And he was checking them. He said, "No, this ain't what you're supposed to be doing, right?"
Because they were doing the same thing.
Yeah.
They were doing the same thing. And you have to remember, it is important to, the reason why you need, the Jewish part is important.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because some of the things that Jesus was saying, you would only kind of get it if you understood Jewish custom, which helped you to understand why God was doing and what God was doing at a particular time. These things, God is not wishy-washy. He ain't like no doggone Candace Owens.
Yeah.
Everything he does is intentional.
Yeah.
It is
and
not, and even
no, go ahead. Do your thing. Cook. Cook.
I had a note here that says, oh gosh, Paul explains that the Gentiles, the non-Jews, are grafted into Israel's olive tree. This is what the Bible calls it, not replacing it. How are we replacing? How could we replace the Jews in the first place? We can't replace them because Jesus did not. They were necessary for Jesus to come through this particular bloodline. Like, now, why God chose this people group? Now that you got to take I don't.
It ain't my business. Right?
Really,
I mean that the word. Yeah, I don't know if you said the word. I was thinking of it. It sounded like you were trying to find a word to describe, to use as a euphemism or a synonym that a lot of people use when they hear this moniker of chosen people. Chosen people does not connote supremacy. That's the word. No one suggests that Jews are superior, right? Now, that isn't to say that some Jews don't think that they are superior to others because they're Jewish, the same manner in which a lot of Christians believe that they're superior to others because they're Christian.
Hello, sound like Candace is one of them.
Exactly like her, especially depending on what type of Christian you are, right? But I can guarantee you this as well, that the exact same doctrinal beliefs are laden within Islam as well. And you better know that if you don't know anything else. When you talk about supremacy, when you talk about someone believing that they are special, that they are important in the eyes of God, more so than they are of the non-believers. I mean, even the peoples of the book who are to be subdued in this life. And these folk are to live under the stately authority of Muslims, right? I'll go here again, and we can kind of shift into some of the political stuff. But in the Quran, chapter 9, verse 30, it says the Jews say that Ezra is the son of Allah, while the Christians say the Messiah is the son of Allah. Such are their baseless assertions, only parroting the words of earlier disbelievers. May Allah condemn them. How can they be diluted from the truth? You see, the reason why, and you talk about supersession, you talk about replacement and everything else, right? Muhammad came to correct all that which had been corrupted by the Jew and by the Christian alike, because the Quran also makes the claim that Abraham, the father of the Jews, was not in fact a Jew, but he was a Muslim. That's in the Quran, and if you need me to quote it, if you need me to find the chapter and verse, I will find it and quote it. But the reason why these people have no smoke for Islam is because Islam challenges the very promise of the Enlightenment. And I spoke about this, last time. You may not remember the point that I made the last time you and I went live, because the person in the comment section earlier who was trying to talk about this thing of a double standard. This has nothing. This is what liberalism does to the mind, right? This is liberalism taken to excess, to the point where we have lost all of our common sense. Not even so much common sense. You see, this whole idea of cultural relativism. This was originally a Greek a Greek idea. This kind of it was sort of like Greek epistemology, so to speak, where the Greeks were some of the first, if not the first, people on record to suggest in their philosophic works that there was this common through line amongst all peoples. Although there was a particularity with respect to culture, there was something about human beings that was universal. And that's how you found the ultimate good, right? You can find the commonality between peoples who are seemingly different on the surface. That's how you can find what is true, what is in a platonic sense, what is archetypally true, right? Beyond the veil of illusion, the veil of sophistry and subjectivity. But in order to find that universal truth, you must be willing to go outside the confines of your own culture. And so you have to study. And so that became so axiomatic within Western thought that this idea of cultural relativism, instead of being used as a tool to discover what is true, it became used as a tool to suggest that nothing is true. Because when you have good and evil,
Wow.
what the mind does, and what people like Candace Owens and this person in your comment section did, took good and evil, right? Like Melanie Phillips, I heard her say recently, if you ask the typical liberal, and then this isn't even about the conservative liberal divide, we're just talking about the common Westerner, so to speak. If you ask them about good and evil, it isn't a matter of good and evil. As a matter of fact, it's simply a matter of perception or misunderstanding, because they will simply attempt to split the baby. You see, this is why it is so key. And this is why I said last time, and we dealt with this question about when a society begins to lash out against the Jews, that may very well be a society that is in the latter stages of its own decline, because its moral compass has been completely broken.
Yeah.
It has been completely broken, right? It's I forgot. I was going to make a point about but anyway, did you want to chime in? Because I know I've sort of been going for a while. I don't know if you wanted to jump in and say something. Did you want to say something?
Well, no, I what I do want to say is I want you to take a second to give just briefly
the background.
Some background so people know why for someone who often says we're going to shed light to the truth, I want people to know why we can listen to you, and not saying that we don't fact check Chuck, because he would tell you to do that himself, but why we can why he has so much knowledge. I'd like you to just give people some of your background.
I mean, I've just been I've been a student of history, of philosophy, politics, just all things just related to the liberal arts, the humanities. I've been into it, and you can ask anyone who knows me. Keisha, you and I, we've met, we've been out together. We're friends with my wife. We went on double dates. We hung out.
Yeah.
But you haven't had the luxury of meeting some of my friends from around the way that have known me since I was a teenager, going back to junior high and high school. And they will tell you, sure enough, I've matured, and the way I see the world has changed. But when it comes to someone who had this natural, this curious, just something in me, you know what I mean? Like, I was the person who at 16, 17 years old, my idea of a good time was not being out running the streets. My idea of a good time was to be at home with my face buried in a book. I've been doing this for almost 25 years. I'm young, but I've been doing this for a very, very, very long time. I'm just, someone who is, I'm just a natural researcher, just someone who has a curious mind.
Yeah.
And that's just that. But Keisha, hold that thought if you had another question, because I remember where I wanted my point to stop, because you talked to go back to bring it full circle about this issue of the chosen people. It's a weird thing because, of course, the Jews were chosen as, you alluded to, you broke it down brilliantly, to keep his commandments, to be, the true and living God, the one and only God revealed himself to the world through the Jews.
Yes.
Right. And we are where we are in Western civilization due in large part to the contributions of Hebrew morality.
Yes. Let me just pause right there for 1 second. For those of you who have the audacity to call yourself a Christian and then crap all over Jewish people who have literally, had it not been for these group of people,
what would the world be?
Where would the Messiah have come from, and who was going to make sure that message got out? Because Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Paul, Luke is the only one that is the only book of the Bible, the only one that they're like, was he a Christian or was he a Jew or not? They're not. That's the only one. Every single other book was written by a Jew. So who is responsible for spreading this? We call ourselves Christians now because we serve Christ. But I was thinking, like, well, is Christian really the best term? Because honestly, truth be told, we kind of really should be calling ourselves follower. We're everything we do is Jewish. It's in Christianity. It's literally Jewish.
It is.
I'm sorry. I just want to note that you better put some respect on their name, not for their sake, but for the God that we serve, the King of the universe, because they are the ones who took the task and got this word out to the rest of the world.
Yeah, it's ironic. I don't know if this is providential. Who knows? But like I said before about the fall of a civilization, when hatred towards the Jews becomes fashionable, it's weird the way Jews indirectly, and I don't think this is something that they're consciously doing, but it's funny how they have a way of sort of showing you where they show you where your society is, right? It kind of brings you back to the moral order. It causes you to question things, and it really calls you down to the carpet, so to speak. For someone in Candace Owens and a lot of these peaceniks, these America Firsters, these isolationists, this was a common theme after the Second World War. We had the formation of the United Nations, and they brought forth their Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, so on and so forth. And
I have a very short clip that I want to play for you that she said. Check this out.
We just have to accept that whatever they do, no matter how toxic and horrible and demonic it is, it's perfectly acceptable because God is going to bless you if you bless this land. Yeah, God wanted you to leave us with a 1948 real estate problem.
I just thought, the way she talks about it is with disgust. I'm like, what did these people do to you, girl? There was another clip where she says, it's not just like, it's like everything that they do. These people are like, not just on a high level. She said on a molecular level, on an individual level, this woman has lost her mind. She said Jews are bad, not just high level, all the way down to the molecules they bad. I'm like, wow.
Christian.
This is the Christian, y'all.
And she her hatred, because I used to, sit back, and I was one of those people who thought that the charge of anti-Semitism was being thrown around a little bit too copiously. I used to believe that, I mean, and it can be, of course, I look at every situation as it comes, and then I make, I make an assessment, right? I mean, you can criticize a Jewish person without it being
course.
anti-Semitic. You can criticize a Jewish organization without it being anti-Semitic.
Of course.
You could, criticize, Israel's
Israel,
domestic or foreign policy without it being
yeah,
anti-Semitic,
all of it.
right?
Yes. Mhm.
Every Jewish king throughout its history was criticized, going all the way back to Saul.
Mhm.
So this notion that Jews cannot be criticized because they wield so much power, and of course they use their perceived victimhood status as a means of social and political, and if you listen to Norman Finkelstein, a means of financial extortion. Of course, this is what this is what these people teach. This is what these people say.
Mm.
But and I sat back and I was watching for a little while, and I began to see this again. I talked about this the last time we went live, where Trump. I'll speak about Trump briefly. The political force that is Donald Trump
Mhm.
brought a lot of wackos to the forefront.
Yes.
Because they were sitting, and it's not to say that Trump shares their views and opinions, but when Trump came out criticizing, all of our global institutions, the push for globalism, right? If you were in these sort of underground academic circles going all the way back to the 90s, 80s, perhaps even as far back as the 70s, even the 60s, especially when we had those spate of assassinations in the 1960s with the Kennedys and Dr. Martin Luther King and so on and so forth. And you had the famous novelist Truman Capote go on the Johnny Carson show and make the claim that our society, our country was being controlled by a secret cabal of I believe he may have mentioned the Freemasons or something to that effect. I can't exactly remember, but you could probably go and find the clip online. And he suggests that they're trying to promote anarchy with these assassinations, right? They're trying to, essentially take over our country.
Mhm.
And so, this is when a lot of these ideas really became, caught
Mainstream.
celeb, right? Somewhat in vogue, but yet at the same time still marginal. Going all the way back, like I say, going as far back as the 1970s. So we've always heard of this coming New World Order. Right. You know what I mean? There's always been, somebody had some pamphlet, a piece of literature that'll pull you to the side and try to decode the meaning of the saying on the reverse seal of the dollar bill. Right. So what does it all mean? And so when Trump came forth and he began to really sort of buck the system, and it kind of took him a while to really gain the trust of a lot of people who were at the time. This is a bit anachronistic to say now, because I don't think that term was popularized on the internet back then, but I'm talking about the quote unquote black pilled community, right? The people who just felt like the system was all just set up to fail. Right. There's all the same right wing, left wing, same bird, all this whole talk, and everybody, and what this is, Keisha, it's basic fundamental conflict theory 101. Conflict theory is the sociological theory that became like the new kind of academic term after it's like I would say maybe from the mid 1800s on, as a consequence of the publication of the Communist Manifesto, the academic term critical theory became sort of like the substitute for leftism, or for the left. Right? Of course, we get the term the left out of the French Revolution. And the reason why I bring up conflict theory is because conflict theory is an academic theory that suggests that society's primary organizing principle is one that revolves around the concept or the issue of power. So, in other words, it isn't so much goes back to the Enlightenment idea that power is to be distrusted, or people should be skeptical of authority.
I see where you're going with. Okay, yeah.
It is that people, and you see this on the left and the right,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
wherever they see power, power in and of itself intimates evil, wickedness, and corruption wherever these people think they see power. And so, in that,
Wait,
in that,
okay, so let me make sure I get what you're saying. You're saying the inception of this critical theory, like
critical theory,
these ideas, they're so connected to power. They're so focused on power. Maybe that's a better way
that's
to say
all they
it.
see.
That's all they see. And
That's all they see.
anywhere that they go, they're focused on who has the power, and we got to tear that
We're
down.
down, yeah. And
Power equals bad, basically.
yep, and because there's this perception, and you can, and yes, you know, certain groups of people, you know, Jews tend to be, I mean, you know, depending upon the context, depending upon the time, depending upon the place, Jews can be very poor, very downtrodden, and in other circumstances, they could be very, very, very affluent, very successful, right? You talk about intersectionality, for example. Polish Jews or Jews from Eastern Europe were very, very, downtrodden, very, very poor. You know, didn't have much, and you know, what have you. And then on the flip side, you have the Jews of Germany, who were very, very affluent, very prominent in world affairs. Because there's something, and we're not here to unpack it, but there's something inherent within Germanic cultural dynamics that produces very successful scientists, very successful intellectuals, very successful. Germans are extremely high.
Do they make
Great piano makers, as Dr. Thomas Sowell likes to remind us, right?
Yes.
beer brewers, garment makers, right? The Jean Company, Levi Strauss, and so on. They're very good farmers. They're very highly inclined in terms of agriculture, especially when you look at what the Germans were able to do in the Western Hemisphere in Central and South America, even in the United States, right? Some of the most wealthiest and successful plantations in the American South were actually owned by Germans.
That now,
right? Were owned by Germans. And so again, intersectionality. So, you know, there's something for people who like to talk about the conspiracy of Jewish control. Perhaps it isn't so much a conspiracy of Jewish control as it is a conspiracy of German control. But again, you know, we don't talk about that, right? Because we only want to focus on the Jewishness, so to speak, of the person, and not the fact that they are German. But back to my point, that I didn't get lost.
So all right, let just to think for a second. If why, you know, like you said, Jews in some area, you know, some places of the world, they do well, some places they don't. Just like, you know, they're not unique in that way. Like people tend to have, you know, their specialties or whatever.
Right.
But why? So why? God chose these people, which to the rest of the world, if you want to just look at it, you know, in a very kind of, I guess, simplistic way, since God chose these people, that means they have power. Is that kind of what they're saying? God chose these people, so therefore they have power.
And yeah, absolutely.
Here's the question though: if God chose these people, and you claim to worship the same God that chose these people, why are you beefing with his choice? That, like, what's the problem? It's the same God. Why are you beefing with the people he chose? Like, what that guy, they didn't choose themselves.
Envy is envy, right? And like you, to your point, Keisha, I think it's a burden that many of them do not want. There is a very interesting book about this. It's called The Ordeal of Civility. I think it makes a lot of these points about this, but I think, and this is just me being like an armchair psychoanalyst. I don't know any Jews personally. I don't have any close relationship with any Jews. I do have someone who is Jewish who follows me on Instagram, and we have had some direct messages, exchanged direct messages over the years. Very interesting conversations. So I can't say this with any certainty. This is just me being an armchair psychoanalyst, but I think a lot of Jews probably resent this notion that they have not that they are chosen in terms of, again, superiority, or them being chosen makes them superior. Them being chosen in the sense that they have an assignment, they have something that they have to do.
Yes.
And I think some of them actually resent that, which is why I think, and there are a lot of theories that we've talked about this. Chad has asked me this. We've talked about it privately. We've talked about it publicly, about, theorizing as to why so many Jews are left wing and why so many Jews bought into these ideas of, social justice and whatnot. And again, I think that a lot of the
Hanging
concepts,
around with them Germans.
right? Yeah. When we think about social justice, of course, we think about totalitarianism. We think about communism. It's particularly as conservatives, that's one of the first things that comes to our mind is communism, and Karl Marx, etc. Even though, of course, Karl Marx didn't invent communism; he merely learned it. I think that it's unfair to put the blame at the feet of Jews when, in fact, I believe the promise of the Enlightenment itself is what brought about this. Which I think the Enlightenment itself brought about the early 20th century in the rise in fascism, Nazism, and communism. I think that was the unforeseen consequences of the Enlightenment. But again, that's probably a totally separate conversation. But again, Keisha, when it comes to clowns like Candace Owens, her hatred for Jews is based solely on her flawed conception, her flawed theological conceptions. I think that's where her Jewish bigotry is rooted, in her false her false theology, her bad theology. And for someone, let me just make this point here. After World War II, the left wing elite the world over said to themselves and said to the rest of the world, okay, well, in order to prevent another war on such a scale, right, we must have international cooperation amongst nations.
Yes.
Even though, they were playing with these ideas, even after the First World War, right, with the League of Nations, and people, of course, the League of Nations is considered to be like the precursor to the UN, right? And we had the United Nations after World War II. And it's just interesting. I just thought this was interesting that at the United Nations headquarters, have you ever heard of "Let us beat the swords into plowshares"? It's a statue outside of UN headquarters. Well, it's a statue. The UN Security Council is pretty much the UN Security Council essentially is the United Nations. And I think the United Nations began with the United States, I think Great Britain, China, Russia, and I think maybe France or something like that. I can't recall, but I know China and Russia were both in there. And a couple of years after, about a decade or so after the founding or the creation of the UN, the Soviet Union donated this statue to the organization in 1959. Nikita Khrushchev in the USSR donated this statue to the Soviet Union. It was created by a Russian sculptor. And on this, that's the statue. Let us beat the swords into plowshares. And on that statue is what's the word I'm looking for? There's an inscription on it. It's a Bible verse, right? Donated by the Soviet Union, but it had a Bible verse on it. It's from the book of Isaiah, chapter 2, verse 4. It said, "They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore." So here's the Soviet Union, Soviet Empire, using the Bible to promote this idea, right? This new paradigm of the
Wow.
20th century, that there would be no more war.
Oh, wow. Y'all see why I love talking to this man? This is incredible.
But
That's crazy.
but the preceding verse, I find that's interesting, and maybe you can tell this to Candace, because again, like we talked about before, how communists and the Soviets used this anti-war nonsense so that they could weaken the fighting morale of their enemies for the purpose of expanding their empire. This is what the global intifada is doing right now.
Wow. Using the Bible that we know that they don't believe in.
Yeah.
Using the Bible, just to accomplish their agenda.
The previous verse in that goes into that verse, Isaiah chapter 2, verse 3, says, many peoples will come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the temple of the God of Jacob. He will teach us his ways so that we may walk in his paths. The law will go out from Zion, the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Let the law, let the word go out from Zion. The Jews, understand this. This is the Old Testament. This is the book of Isaiah.
Let me find that so I can pull it up. Isaiah, what is it? Isaiah?
Chapter 2, verse 3.
Okay. And the reason why I want to kind of really dig more into this, because I think this is really important, especially for believers. We have a person in our midst as believers who is waving our King's name and saying he believes things, and she's coming in his name, y'all. We can't, this is where the watchman on the wall, this is where we activate. We can't stand for stuff like this. Now, we can't obviously control who continues to watch her, but the people who we want to try to, he who has an ear, let him hear. We want to try to put out a warning. This is not what Candace Owens is saying. This rhetoric is not, it's not biblical. It is not, even the heart that she's coming in is not a heart that God would want us to come in. So that's why I want to dig into this, because it is very important.
And just to go back, we talked about some philosophical stuff, and I know you had touched on scripture. I mean, we can just let it flow and go wherever the conversation takes us. But what is this comment that she made about 1948 and there being a real estate issue after 1948? Is she trying?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just trying. No, because I think you know what I'm about to say, right? Isn't she trying to? Because that's the year that Israel won its independence. Is that what she means? She's talking about some real estate issue.
Oh, yes, that's what she. So a lot like this. Lisa Johnson in the chat, she says Israel is not a biblical. Israel is not biblical concerning today's Israel. Israel, basically, so they're like, Israel today is not God's Israel, but that is the very same land that God promised. That's where they went when they came out of Egypt. And the people, the Jewish people, they have been scattered. We know they've been scattered. The Bible told us that they was going to be scattered. So just because, this one is from Poland, this one's from England, some are in Africa too.
Keisha,
I'm sorry. Yes.
No. See, because now I'm gonna have to take the gloves off, because you got people out here playing. Because they play this game, especially like when it comes to the theological differences between Jews and Christians. A very, very, very deep a Jewish theologian that I listen to quite a bit. He's very, very critical of Christianity. I mean, he's downright. I guess a fair word is to say hostile. Many of you have probably heard of him. Rabbi Singer. I listen to him a lot. I just like to hear his perspective. If you don't know who he is, his first name is But somebody put his name in the comment section. You have to know who he is. If you're serious about theology, if it's something that you study, if it's something that you do, a rabbi, a singer, is a very famous a Jewish theologian. Listen to him a lot. But anyway, that's not the point. Because again, folks want to get into this whole debate about the state of Israel. What is Israel? Where is Israel? Who are the legitimate, sons of Israel and the 12 tribes, and who are the real Jews, and such and so forth.
Yeah.
You see, this is where I say, okay, if you want to have that conversation, fair enough, right? Fair enough. I'm all for it. But if you want to have a conversation with me about this issue of Israel, Jerusalem, etc., then let's just strictly talk about it on political grounds, and let's see if your point of view holds up.
Ooh,
because last time I checked, Muslims have a theology too.
That's right.
Muslims have a belief too, right? What does the Shia hegemon in Iran believe of the Messiah? Because Islam is a messianic faith as well. They believe in an end times. They believe that Allah will return at a time and set things straight. When is that time? What will precipitate the coming forth of their Messiah? To the person in the comment section who wants to talk about where Israel is, or the Bible's not talking about the Israelites of today.
Tell them what's up. I know exactly where you're going. I just learned.
This is not an issue about whether or not I agree with a Jewish person's theology. I couldn't care less. Because in the West, we're talking about the proliferation of the secular law. And here's what I mean when I say secular law, because a lot of people hear the term secular and they take it out of context. Because once upon a time, before we had any idea of representative government, or as Thomas Jefferson outlined in the Declaration of Independence, this idea of this principle of the consent of the governed, right? This is what I like to talk. These are what I consider to be the three pillars of the Enlightenment, or the three pillars of democracy, right? It is natural. It is distrust for authority, right? It is the promotion of the precedence or the primacy of one's individual conscience over that of the authority of the state and of the church. This is the Enlightenment. And lastly, this idea, this was the Enlightenment. This is what they believed. This is what they promoted. That mankind was naturally orientated toward progression. His natural inclination was progression, whatever that progression may be, so long as they were removed or unmoored from the shackles of superstition. And so with that being said, again, this is kind of Hegelian. And Friedrich Hegel, for his time, Hegel, the man who inspired Marx by and large, or he had a huge hand in inspiring Marx. I think a lot of Hegel's influence on Karl Marx thinking is to some extent overblown. It's just that so many people are familiar with this term, the Hegelian dialectic, and they don't really understand what it means. But Hegel was considered a conservative for his day. So make of that what you will, but that's a conversation for another day.
Right.
But there's a Hegelian split. There's a thesis and an antithesis with respect to authority one chooses versus one, but there's a split between authority one chooses and what a person is bound to by way of obligation. You're born into a society. No one says that you have to follow a politician, or that a politician has some innate or some inherent right to rule over you. You pick that person, you choose that person, right? But the Enlightenment thinkers were saying to themselves, if we tell people and we promote this idea that the individual should be free from all sort of authority that is not of his own choosing, then how can we foster a moral society if we aren't dutiful? And that's where the family comes in. That's your obligation.
Mm-hmm.
Your obligation is to your loved ones, to your family. That's
Yeah.
in the private sector. That's the obligation.
Mm-hmm.
The secular law is one that suggests, because you have to think about this, Keisha, because this is bucking thousands and thousands of years of human history, where we say to ourselves, Keisha, you born just like I'm born. You breathe the same air as me. You put your pants on one leg at a time, just like I do. Think about this. There are people in the, I don't know, I forgot what's the capital of Florida? Tallahassee? I can't remember.
That's right.
Tallahassee,
Yeah.
Lansing is our capital. Our nation's capital is DC.
Mm-hmm.
We got folk wherever they are in the world right now. Check this out now. You ever think about this? Making laws that you and I are bound to follow, and they are of the flesh, came into this world through a woman, just like you and I, put their pants on one leg at a time and breathe the same air, bleed the same blood as you and I.
Yeah.
But we can't stand them. We don't like them. We don't even know who our state congressmen and senators are. We don't even know who they are, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But we follow the laws that they create,
Yes,
and we don't even know who they are. The idea was, how do we create a society where people agree to abide by the laws that are created not by God, but laws that are passed down by men, laws that are created by men? That's the secular law. We live in we have a representative, a republic, call it whatever you want. The bottom line is, we elect the people who create our laws.
Right.
That's the secular law. But we negotiate within the realm of politics.
Mm-hmm.
Religion, obligation by way of birth, right? To live is to take on whatever that burden may be, the burden of being alive, the burden of being a human being, because God's word is final. You don't negotiate with God. You can negotiate with another human being in the realm of politics, but religion or God is final. So why did I say all of that? Right? You gotta ask yourself, goes back to the question, what is it that these people believe? Because I don't care about a Jewish person's theology when it comes to geopolitics. I don't care about a Muslim's theology when it comes to politics, just so long as they agree to abide by the social compact, the social contract, i.e. the secular law. The problem is that Islam is a threat to order. It's a threat to the West, in that it is a threat to my person, my rights, my property, my things. It is a civilizational threat. I don't have to agree with what Jews believe. And there are a lot of people who you may not necessarily want to be around, but you have to, because people are going to do things that you agree with, whether you like it or not. Because in politics, we negotiate.
Yeah.
So if you can set your, and this is the key behind the separation between church and state. This is why religion became a private matter. It's not so much about, because again, religion should inform the individual conscience so that you can go out in the world and be a moral person, and that should reflect in our politics.
Exactly. So we don't have to have a theocracy.
Exactly.
People contain the theocracy within
themselves
out in society.
Right. So the problem is not, so you can debate Israel all you want. You could talk about that till you blue in the face.
I got it. I'm tracking.
This is why people say what they say, why people do the things they do, because deep down inside, when it comes to the global intifada, when it comes to Islamic jihad, they are afraid that they might not be bluffing.
Okay.
They're afraid.
They got a track record. They got receipts.
They're afraid.
Of what the links that they will go to.
Right.
Like I said before, if somebody will strap a bomb to their own citizen, you don't think they would send a freaking nuclear bomb across somebody that they don't even know? You got to be kidding me.
That's Keisha.
People won't do it. Give them us. Here's the thing, that this is the other thing that people really don't understand. I think you were going there, then we kind of got.
Go ahead.
People like Candace and some people in the chat do not understand that Iran, Arabs, their moral compass is not based on that negotiation structure. It ain't, they don't have a system where it allows, ain't no grace over there. See, y'all are so accustomed to the Judeo-Christian, the Western way of thinking. You think everybody like that.
Yeah.
They don't rock like that, okay? Their belief is from a, you know how, this is a perfect example, I think. You know how we've been saying the left is so crazy. It's like a religion. I call it a cult because I don't think it's not a religion. It's a cult. But we'll say it's like a religion. Why do we say that? We say that because of how radical they are, because of the length that they will go. The law, our social agreements, they have bypassed, because this new belief that they have, it means more to them. They haven't heard, it becomes like a religion, because religion, it's supposed to supersede all of this other stuff.
Yeah.
But Islam, that's what they lead with, that radical ideology.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the same thing. That's why the same way we want to shut the radical left down, the ones who want to, cut off children's breasts and genitals. That same type of radicalism is the same thing that Iran. It's because it's more than just, oh, this is a politician that I think I like, I'll vote for them. No, this is a it's a religious belief that they have internalized and believe it to their core. They're willing to die for it.
Yeah, because it's the arrogance of the West. I mean, particularly here in the United States, and I'm not saying something new or fresh or innovative. There are a lot of people saying the exact same thing, and we're all correct in my humble opinion, and that is, I mean, you know, we are encased on our left and right, our east and west flank by two massive oceans. And we have two political friendlies to our north and south. And you know, we don't know. It's like we don't know what the real world is like.
Right.
It's like we do not know what it's like. We're living in this bubble, and we're so egocentric that it's beyond comprehension that someone can be so unlike us. I said this the last time we were live, that the fact that these sorts of people actually exist, and they exist, and they do the things they do solely on the basis of their own conviction, their own individual conscience. That's so terrifying that it's something the likes of people like Candace Owens cannot fathom. It has to be that somebody is doing something to them. That's the only thing that makes sense, because a normal, rational human being doesn't act this way. But again, that's because we have to be willing to accept the fact that evil is real. What we've done in the West when it comes to good and evil is we've done what Melanie Phillips suggests, which is we've split the baby in half. Right? That we try to bargain with evil. You see, this whole question of war, Keisha, I mean, maybe not. I don't even want to go there yet. I want to talk about, you talked about, Islam. Islam, its own leadership, its own authority, have as its example with respect to agreements and treaties. They go back to, I think, what. You may want to fact check this for me. I'm trying to remember what century it was, but there was a treaty because you had Muhammad and his clique. They were in Medina, and you had a leader of a group of pagan Arabs who resided in Mecca. This is how Muhammad and his followers were able to take Mecca. It's called the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. The Treaty of Hudaybiyah. And it is in that treaty where, I mean, and depending upon who you ask, if you ask Islamic apologists, they will tell you that it was the peoples of Mecca, the pagans of Mecca, that violated the treaty. But if you ask, those who are critical of Islam, they will tell you that it was Muhammad and his followers that violated the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. And just after a couple of years after making the treaty, Muhammad betrayed the peoples of Mecca and invaded. And of course, the idea he wanted to wait, and he was simply biding his time until he became powerful enough to overthrow his rival, because Muhammad wanted to take Mecca. And so this is the kind of thing that they live by. They don't believe as though they have to tell an unbeliever the truth. You have to understand what they think about Christians, Muslims, and polytheists, as they call them in their own holy texts. If you want to know what the inspiration for this conflict is, the conflict is not over territory. The conflict is not political. The conflict is religious. And the fact of the matter is that it's not so much that Christians are jumping in to want to die for Jews. Like I've said this in one of my previous YouTube videos. It's not. I mean, of course, not all Jews live in Israel, but a lot of them do, right? And of course, there are different type of Jews. Jews came into Israel from Africa and parts of the Middle East, right? The Sephardi Jews, the Mizrahi Jews, who were chased out of Lebanon, Morocco, and Iraq and the other places, and people who, these Jewish folk have been indigenous to these countries for generations upon generations upon generations until these, until these pogroms began to spring up after the First World War. Candace, she's talking out the side of her ass. She doesn't know what she's talking about, right? But it would be a tragedy for some mass casualty extinction level event to occur in Israel and wipe out maybe 3/4 of the Jewish people in the world. I mean, what a tragedy! Just imagine what a tragedy it would be if the Jewish people were to go extinct. I mean, people, and guess what? Those in the comment section who don't know, who don't believe. The whole premise of particularly of Shia Islam and perhaps Sunni Islam is no different. Again, I'm no Quranic scholar. You can look this up on your own time. But they believe that the coming of the Shia Messiah will occur once they have successfully taken over the globe, because no unbeliever has the right to control any territory on Allah's green earth. The fact that the United States and other non-Muslim majority countries exist is a problem, because they mean to take over the world. This is not me just spouting off some cockamamie conspiracy theory like Candace Owens. It's based on what's in their own text and what they say out of their own mouths. I covered this on my YouTube channel, and I will be, and I won't be saying everything here tonight, but I plan on doing my next YouTube video. I'm going to do an entire video on Iran and on Iran specifically. But but my point, though, again, when it comes to this is not a question of Islam versus Judaism or Islam versus Christianity versus and Muslims or I'm sorry, Jews and Christians come together. Although Muslims do have in their holy book a verse where they point this out. This is let me just read this real quick here. In Quran chapter 5 verse 51, it says, "O believers, remember, only believers are Muslims. No one else believes. Only Muslims are believers according to their text. O believers, take neither Jews nor Christians as guardians. They are guardians of each other. Whoever does so will be counted as one of them. Surely Allah does not guide the wrongdoing people." Jews and Christians are wrongdoing people because their beef is with everyone who is not Muslim. Only the Jew and the Christian can live amongst the Muslim so long as they agree to live in subjugation and
Mhm.
pay what is called the jizya,
So
which is
that's
a
why
tax that they have to pay.
in Israel, there are Arab people that live there. They come and go freely. There are no Muslim quarters and all that kind of foolishness. Like
She said,
yeah, like the way she was trying to make it sound.
Nice.
Like, they try to find that over in quote unquote Palestine. Go try to find Jews or Christians go to any Arab country.
Let me
Find where Jews and Christians are non-Arab people are just living peacefully. They wearing whatever they want to wear.
Right.
The women over there, they wear what they respect how you want to dress.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want. Like, show me one.
And this is part of the whole anti-imperialism track. Let me just speak to.
I got a clip for you. I want to play. Because if you want to.
Okay. I don't know if you want to play it first. You can.
We're gonna, because it's gonna piggyback on something you said earlier,
Okay.
but it'll kind of take us off. Go ahead.
A lot of people are unaware. When you look at, for example, now you see the amalgamation of the different tentacles and tendrils of the leftist hydra, right? And there are many different fronts and faces and masks that they wear. How is it that you have folks, rioting in Los Angeles for these illegal and these invaders, right? Immigrants, these people. You have people rioting for them on American streets, waving Mexican flags, wearing keffiyehs, some of them even waving the Palestinian flag, right? Why? How is this? Why is it that immediately after the October 7th attack in 2023, why was it that we saw this massive global protests all across major Western cities, from New York, London, Paris, all over the Western world, and all of our major cities? You saw protests of people talking about, holding signs, talking about globalize the Antifada. I don't know if these people notice or not, but we're already in a war, and we've been in one for a very, very long time. The jihad is here. But set that aside for a second, because this marriage, right? This marriage between the left and Islam, it didn't just happen within the past. They said, well, they have a mutual enemy, and that's the United States, or that's free market capitalism, et cetera, et cetera. No, this goes all the way back to the 1920s, 1930s, at the very moment when the Muslim Brotherhood was founded. The Muslim Brotherhood was founded by a man named Hassan al-Banna. And Hassan al-Banna, a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. I don't know if he was an official member of the Muslim Brotherhood, but he was heavily influenced by the Muslim Brotherhood. He ended up coming to the United States and studying at an American university in Colorado. Today, I believe it is Northern Colorado University, but I don't think that's what it was called back then. This was like the 1930s, right? This is when Hitler and everything, Hitler and his war machine was still on a tear, because you had all manner of Muslims across the world, whether they be Turks, Arabs, or Persians. They were all cheering and celebrating the efforts, the war efforts of Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini. Okay. But set that aside. Out of the Muslim Brotherhood comes this scholar, this intellectual, who comes to the United States by the name of Sayyid Qutb, TB, Cutby.
Okay.
Saeed Cutby writes a book, Keisha.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote a lot of different books, but this is the one. His original publication date, I don't remember the exact date, but it was originally published in 1949, a year after the founding of Israel. The name of this book is called Social Justice in Islam. He took the
That's funny. Like, what?
he took the ideas of Marxism, Leninism, and fused it with Islam. And Islam, social justice and is in Islam, social justice in Islam became the key text of the Muslim Brotherhood. This book was circulating all throughout the Muslim world, had a heavy effect on the way a lot of Muslims thought, a lot of, what they believed, right? And so then, when you fast forward to Iran, of course, Iran has a long history. Iran became Iran, I think, in 1935 when it officially changed its name to Iran from Persia. There are different.
Persia was Iran?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
The modern day Iran is the former Persian Empire. Persia was colonized by Arab Muslims in the 7th century. They came from out of these peoples who came, or not so much the Arabs that colonized the Persians, but originally the Persians these peoples were considered Indo-Aryan. They came out of parts of Europe and they migrated into the area of what is modern day Iran. The Persian Empire was so vast at a point that it reached all the way to the Near East and into Egypt. Egypt at a point in time used to be part of the Persian Empire until it was originally defeated by Alexander the Great once he had consolidated Greece. Because Alexander the Great wanted revenge against the Persians. It's a whole thing. But remember, the first king of the Persian Empire, of course, was King Cyrus. Remember, at this time, the Jews are exiled from Jerusalem. They're living under the tyranny of the Babylonians.
Right.
King Cyrus frees the Jews, invites them back into Jerusalem. There's a whole, of course, you're talking about the Persian Empire. A lot of things occurred. I think it was Alexander the Great. I think he defeated King Darius III. But anyway, Muslims come in, they take over Persia, and they make what was originally the religion of Persia, which was Zoroastrianism. They subordinated Zoroastrianism and made the religion, the state religion, so to speak, of the empire, Islam. But they had always been, they kind of remained this kind of succession of Persian kings. But now, the empire was Persian. And then once the Ottoman Empire rose, and then again, we don't have time to get off into all of that. But up until 1935, Persia was still Persia. I forgot what ruler it was at the time who made the decision to change the name to go back to its ancient name, so he claimed, which was Iran. But Iran is said to be a play on the word Aryan, like Hitler and the Aryans. Because Hitler...
This is wild. Okay. I think I'm tracking.
Because again, Hitler and the Germans, again, mind you, they were heavily influenced by a lot of Eastern, mysticism and things of this nature. Yeah. And some German thinkers and influencers, movers and shakers within Germany came up with this kind of convoluted, a cockamamie connection that kind of connected the German peoples to the Aryan peoples, who were these kind of Indo-European, these kind of people who were kind of more synonymous with, I guess, what you would call Indian or Hindu culture or Hindu heritage and tradition. Somehow it kind of got mutated and flipped around in their minds, and those people sort of like became the Germans. Now, in 1935, again, this is why, you know, you see the swastika. That's the, you know, one of the ancient occult symbols of the Tibetan peoples.
Yes.
It's kind of like the wheel of reincarnation.
I think I told y'all on Cutting Through the Culture where I was in Sedona, Arizona, and I walked into this antique shop, and there was a little Buddha with a swastika on it. Yo, that messed my head up. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And so I, you know, of course, I had to like figure out like, what the heck am I looking at?
Right. So these were the Aryans. Now the Persians are saying, all right, cool, let's go for it again, because they were admirers of Hitler anyway. Right. So there's this ongoing back and forth over control over Iran, and then at a point the British Empire comes in. The British Empire strikes up this dumb. Again, I'm running through it. I'll probably do a whole YouTube show where I go into the details. Great Britain comes in. They strike up a deal with the Shah at the time, and you know Iran begins to export its oil and gas resources to the British Empire. So people start whispering in Iran that British imperialists were exploiting the Iranian people. British imperialists were taking Iran's resources and so on and so forth, right? And then fast forward, we're going to skip a lot of details. Then rises to popularity a man who, if any of you know, maybe Candace Owens knows the history of Iran, since she knows so much and wants to talk about it.
Now you know good
the
enough.
rise in the popularity.
He didn't even know that Tulsi Gabbard said that Blair was building.
Right, cutting the clip
up. You
up.
don't know that.
Right. A man named Mohammed Mossadegh. Many of you probably have heard the name Mohammed Mossadegh. So there started to be quiet rumblings in Iran that the Shah was selling his people out. Right. And then the Shah, you know, he forms his own secret police and does all this stuff. Mossadegh, he eventually gets exiled from Iran. And then to kind of like replace him as like the figurehead of this growing resistance against the Shah is Ruhollah Khomeini, the Ayatollah. And eventually becomes the Ayatollah. Right. But all the while this is going on, guess what you have? You have intellectuals in France. Get this now, because there were Iranians that went to France and they were learning Marxism in France. The Shah was overthrown by Iranian communists. There was an Iranian Communist Party called, I forgot how it's pronounced, but it's spelled TUDEH. Was the Iranian Communist Party in the 1960s and 1920s.
Wow.
Let me get this man's name, because I don't want to mispronounce it. Jalal Ahmed. He writes a book in 1962. It's called Oxytosis. That's the title. The subtitle is The Plague of the West. The Plague of the West. And it becomes this popular thing amongst Shia radicals in Iran. Another name for the book is called, what is it called? It's a Farsi word. It's Garbzadegi. It's just weird. Again, I don't speak the language, but again, the book is titled. But the word that I'm badly mispronouncing, it translates into English as West-struckness. West-struckness or Westotosis. toxification. Jalal Ahmed wrote a book claiming that Iranians were being poisoned by Western values, because right around this time, the Shah implements what he calls his white revolution, the white revolution, which entailed land reform, literacy programs, and rights for women. Women weren't walking around looking like ninjas. They weren't looking like that. Iran was a fairly open, free, quasi-democratic place. It was getting more, it was moving in that direction. Not saying that the Shah, forgot Riza something was his name. I always forget their names. These weird names, right? I can't remember these names. But the Shah was beginning to liberalize Iran, but he was gaining the reputation of a dictator because he was trying to suppress the Iranian communists that were in Iran proper. And literature from Iranian-born intellectuals who had migrated to France to receive a Western education was pumping Marxist literature back into Iran.
Wow.
Another Iranian socialist.
Wait a minute. So are you saying
Talk
that
to me now.
before they started talking to the French and started adopting these things, the women didn't dress like that? Their whole thing was different. So what we're looking at is a fully radicalized, the end of, like, what you get when you get to the end of leftism is this super tyrannical, I will kill you if you don't abide. I mean, it really tracks. I mean, it tracks right on top of,
because again, the
communism. That's crazy. So you're saying that
go ahead.
Radical Arab nations, let's Iran, we're going to stick with Iran, was not, their beliefs weren't as radical as they are today. They only got that way because they started adopting the left's ideas.
Yep.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's why.
And again,
so they are literally the poster child for leftism.
Absolutely.
When leftism goes amok and nobody stops it, you can look at Iran. That is crazy.
Jalal Ahmed, along with another man, because again, they were trying to keep the influence of Ahmed, trying to keep him out of Iran and stop him from influencing the minds of the student. These were young people, Keisha. These were left-wing. These were left-wing student activists.
Aren't they always?
Right, an Iranian-born intellectual who, again, migrated to France. He's the one who helped to get Ahmed's work published in Iran, Oxytosis, the Plague of the West, named Ali Sharati. Ali Sharati. He really kicked the door open. But all in all, and I've said this name before, if any of you know anything about the new left, the world over, in the 1960s, 1968 World Revolution, the 1970s and onward, you've all heard this name before that I'm about to drop on y'all. Because if there is any person who's responsible for what took place in Iran, of course, I'm being a bit hyperbolic because it's too much to just lay on one person. But he had a heavy influence on Iranian intellectuals, and that was the work of none other than Frantz Fanon. I've said the name Frantz Fanon before, most known for his book, The Wretched of the Earth. Frantz Fanon was one of the key inspirations behind the Black Panther Party. He's the one who inspired Ali Sharati and the Iranian communists, because the idea was that we need to get rid of Western culture, get Western culture out of Persia, get Western culture out of Iran. And that's when you have the Iranian Revolution, 50 some odd American hostages gets taken, because what the Iranian Communist Party started doing, they started randomly attacking police, randomly causing disturbances. The Shah, what they're doing in the United States now, the Shah was trying to put it down. This fool, Jimmy Carter, in 1976, he begins to withdraw, and along with Great Britain, they begin to withdraw support from the Shah. And then the Shah is forced to flee Iran because the communists have taken over. And then, of course, what happens, because it always comes to a head when it comes to Islamists and communists, because see, Islamists, they will use the tactics of the left. They will use Marxist-Leninist tactics.
Yeah.
But once they have gotten rid of the freedom-loving peoples within the country, now they got to deal with each other now. This happened in Iran. All the communists were wiped out.
Right.
Once they were no good, they were murdered.
Yeah, that's
the same thing happened in 2006 when George W. Bush demanded Gaza hold elections. They elected the Iranian resistance movement, aka Hamas, in 2006, and in 2007, the following year, they wipe out Fatah. Because remember, Fatah was part of the Palestinian Liberation Organization. And the Palestinian Liberation Organization is a conglomerate of left-wing organizations whose doctrinal principles are essentially Marxist-Leninists. These were Palestinian Marxists.
And, I know we talked about this before, but I feel like I kind of came into the middle. I didn't go back far enough. I definitely did not know about all of this. How Iran was, talking to French and like literally, I guess I missed the part where and let me help the chat a little bit. The reason why we're talking about this particular part, because y'all have probably heard the phrase woke right, and people think like, oh, it's not true. But what Chuck is explaining to you all is that it is more truer than you realize. These are the same ideas, y'all. The same. Don't think just because they're using different words. Oh, it's about the Jews. It's not about the right. It's this time, it's about Israel. It's not about the West. It's just because they're using different words but it's of the same ideology. This is what you have to understand. Communists, they will use anything. It doesn't matter. They will take any situation, anything at all to further their agenda. So don't get stuck on the person that's saying the words. Don't get stuck on the situations that they're using. Dig a little, look at the root from what they are saying. If it quack like a duck, if it's hey, come on now. Let me see.
Yeah. And so, and then this is why I always like to point out you can play your class. This is why I always like to point out the hypocrisy, because a lot of your populist, conservative or populist right-wing figures pretend as though they're fighting the good fight against Marxism, against leftism, against communism. And of course, they blame the Jews for the proliferation of Marxism, communism, and of course, Israel, of course, it still has its kibbutzes. It's I think that's the plural for kibbutz. Israel was started by, a lot of Jewish socialists and what have you. And so a lot of hatred toward the state of Israel and Jews stems from the fact that you have a lot of folks with this misplaced anger about communism, and they play it up as the same way in which Henry Ford did. Was a brilliant man in many respects,
Yeah.
But Henry Ford, even, Martin Luther, like a lot, played this up.
Yeah.
That, this was a Jewish conspiracy. This is why I went to the lengths that I went to on my YouTube channel to point out, to dispel this myth about Jews being at the center of the communist conspiracy. It's just not true. It's just not true. And again, you see the way Islam uses communists as well. Especially during the greater part of, the 20th century is defined almost. Of course, you have the two world wars on the former half, but at least for the latter half of the 20th century is greatly defined by the conflict between East and West. That is the United States and the Soviet Union. Well, it turns out that, the Soviet Union and all of its proxies, right, or out of that, within the strata of its proxies, or the countries within its orbit, were Muslim majority countries. These were Arab countries.
Yeah.
It was not the state of Israel, especially under Stalin. He despised Jews, hated them.
And like they were open about it. Like it wasn't like they were like, we don't like those Jews, like behind the scenes. Like you go and you read, they tell you.
So in other words, Keisha, the Soviet Union chose the side of the Arabs. They chose the side of the Arabs.
Remember, I showed you, like when we first started talking about this, and I found pictures of Arabs and black men.
The Free Arab League. You're talking about the Free Arab League.
The Nazi. I was like, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
This is this like Tucker and Candace, this acting like Arabs have just been these innocent people, and I just don't know why, Tucker. I just don't know why they're, why would we do that? I mean, I can't even stand it. Like, I can't stand this fake behind. Like, I'm just asking the question. I mean, I really want to. Anyway, let me stop. I want to play this clip because I want you to help us understand foreign policy and how things work, because I don't think people really actually know how things work. But this is a clip from Marco Rubio. Let's just watch.
Following the U.S. bombing of 3 nuclear sites in Iran yesterday, Trump administration officials are breathing a sigh of relief that the highly classified bombing mission appears to have gone off without a hitch. But there is also concern now about what happens next when it comes to Iran.
Hold on, I'm skipping ahead. I want to get right to his part because it's getting late.
What is next for the U.S. role in this very volatile crisis? Secretary of State and acting White House National Security Advisor Marco Rubio now joins us. Mr. Secretary, I know it has been an intense few hours, but so far it does not appear that Iran has yet retaliated against the United States. What intelligence do you have at this point about their capabilities to respond, the intent of their proxies? Is there any kind of command and control structure left to activate them?
Yeah, well, we'll see what Iran decides to do. I think they should choose the route of peace. We've done everything. We have bent over backwards, okay, to create a deal with these people. Steve Witkoff has traveled the world extensively, met with them. Well, not even met with them, met through the Omanis with them and discussed back and forth. We even put an offer to them that they wanted elements of it in writing, and we offered it to them. Very generous offer, by the way. We've done it, and we're prepared right now. If they call right now and say, we want to meet, let's talk about this, we're prepared to do that. The president's made that clear from the very beginning. His preference is to deal with this issue diplomatically. But he also told them we had 60 days to make progress or something else was going to happen. And I think they thought they were dealing with a different kind of leader, like the kinds of leaders they've been playing games with for the last 30 or 40 years, and they found out that's not the case. So this mission was a very precise mission. It had 3 objectives, 3 nuclear sites. It was not an attack on Iran. It was not an attack on the Iranian people. This wasn't a regime change move. This was designed to degrade and or destroy 3 nuclear sites related to their nuclear weaponization ambitions, and that was delivered on yesterday. What happens next will now depend on what Iran chooses to do next. If they choose the path of diplomacy, we're ready. We can do a deal that's good for them, the Iranian people, and good for the world. Yeah. If they choose another route, then there'll be consequences for that.
Let me follow up on a phrase you just word, weaponization ambitions. Are you saying there that the United States did not see intelligence that the Supreme Leader had ordered weaponization?
That's irrelevant. I see that question being asked in the media. That's an irrelevant question.
No,
they have
that is
everything
the
they need to
key
build a
point
weapon.
in U.S. intelligence assessments. You know
no,
that.
No, it's not.
Yes, it was.
No, it's
that
not.
The political decision had not
I know
been
that better
made.
than you know that, and I know that that's not the case.
But I'm asking you whether the order was given.
And the people who say that, it doesn't matter if the order was given. They have everything they need to build nuclear weapons. Why would you bury things in a mountain, 300 feet under the ground?
Right.
Why would you bury why do they have 60% enriched uranium? You don't need 60% enriched uranium. The only countries in the world that have uranium at 60% are countries that have nuclear weapons. Because it can quickly make it 90. They have all the elements. They have. Why do they have a space program? Is Iran going to go to the moon? No, they're trying to build an ICBM.
No, but
so
that's
they can one day put a warhead on it.
That's a question of intent, and you know in the intelligence assessment that it was that Iran wanted to be a threshold state and use this leverage. I'm talking about the public March assessment, and that's why I was asking you if you know something more from March.
But that's also an
inaccurate
inaccurate representation of it. That's an accurate representation of it. That's not how intelligence is read. That's not how intelligence is used. Here's what the whole world knows. Forget about intelligence. What the IAEA knows. They are enriching uranium well beyond anything you need for a civil nuclear program. So why would you enrich uranium at 60%? Right. If you don't intend to one day use it to take it to 90 and build a weapon? Right. Why are you developing ICBMs? Why do you have 8,000 short-range missiles and 2,000 to 3,000 long mid-range missiles that you continue to develop? Why do you do all these things? They have everything they need for a nuclear weapon. They have the delivery mechanisms, they have the enrichment capability, they have the highly enriched uranium that is stored. Yes. That's all we need to see.
Right. Well,
especially in the hands of a regime that's already involved in terrorism and proxies and all kinds of things around. They are the source of all instability in the Middle East.
No one's disputing that. I'm not doing that here. And they were censured at the IAEA for that enrichment and for violating their non-proliferation agreements. I was simply asking if we had intelligence that there was an order to weaponize, because you said weapon is.
Okay. He got her all the way together. So, people, let me play, let me play this. I got 2 clips for you. I'm going to play it back to back.
Everything. I'm not kidding, right? So sensitive. Everything is now anti-Semitism. Everything is the Holocaust. Everything is Adolf Hitler. Every person that you knew that was in public magically over the last 2 years got possessed by the spirit of Adolf Hitler. At least that's the version, like according to Zionists. They became radical and they became obsessed and they became obvious to the quote unquote conspiracy theorists like me, who told you the reason why they were acting this way. It was to prepare for war with Iran. I've been saying this, I'm not kidding, for over 2 years. Here's a clip of me saying it again just last year. Take a listen.
I played that clip because it was funny to me that she thought, like, presidents have been saying that we're going to go, like, to, if they don't stop. They've been talking about Iran being a problem for a long time. Probably before Candace was even born. Like, the fact that she's like, I've been talking about this for like the last 2 years, guys. So I know what I'm talking about. Let me play one more clip another one that just burns my blood. But I want you to comment on all this when we're all done.
I have pulled away increasingly from politics and have been calling out the left and the right because it's become apparent to me that both sides lie. Am I a little surprised by Trump? Yeah, I am. Especially because it's just so soon and so fast and so obvious as he's talking about building hotels. The Trump hotel to be built in the Gaza Strip while there are literally children starving today there. What kind of a tweet is that? I mean, like, it's just, I get it that Miriam Adelson gave you $100 million. That's a lot of money. But man, have some dignity, man. Have a little bit of respect for the human beings that are still dying and have been being bombed for 2 years. 2 entire years they have been effectively carpet bombed. And you and Jared Kushner are out there talking about building hotels. and what an impressive real estate portfolio you might have if people began to see Gaza as an investment. All we have to do is murder these people. And what's quite stunning, I want to add to this, is you reflect on it, and I think there's something like 1 million adults in Gaza. With the amount of money that we have given Israel, other countries have given Israel, the amount of money that has been spent on the bombs that they are dropping, that are being manufactured on the behalf of Israel, they could have just gone to every Palestinian family and offered them money for their homes, right? Think about that. They could have just gone and said, hey, I'm going to give you $1 million for your home, because this is a nice piece of real estate. But they chose to murder them. They are choosing to carpet bomb them, to gaslight the American people, and to refer to us as anti-Semites for noticing the Holocaust. They are choosing evil, death and destruction, while at the same time demanding that you recognize that these are God's chosen people.
Woo! I knew that clip would get you going. Because it had me over here about to blow a gasket. So you got Rubio. I should have put Rubio in the middle. But you got Candace. She predicted all of this, Chuck. And how dare Trump actually try to solve this problem? You know, they don't really have nothing going on over there. This is just Israel trying to get, America to do help them do their dirty business. These people, they are murderers. They are the ones that's the evil one. It's not Iran. It's
your dirty
Israel.
business. Imagine you saying these kinds of things about the Israeli people when they sitting there on the front lines doing the thing that you too much of a goddamn coward to do for yourself. And these jackasses running around here on the internet talking about they're not going to die for Israel. Some bitch, ain't nobody asked you to die for Israel. Because the people to whom you are criticizing is too busy doing the job for you. Israel, the size of my goddamn own backyard, surrounded on all sides by people who want to see them annihilated. I don't know if Candace Owens knows this, but see, Israel didn't always control the Gaza Strip. Once upon a time, it was under the control of the Egyptians. Give them money for their homes, or buy them homes, or whatever the hell she's just said, so that they can go where? The Gazans are used as pawns in this propaganda war that the Islamists are waging in the West to demoralize folks like us at the core of the Western Empire, so that they may accomplish their goal of exterminating the state of Israel, which they say in their own words. Nobody is carpet bombing and exterminating the Gazans. It's just brought out of a freaking mind. Gaza sends rockets into Israel constantly. They fire Candace Owens. She's some goddamn military expert. Doesn't know anything about guerrilla, doesn't know anything about urban warfare, and the toll that the Israeli Defense Forces, the cost that they have to pay in order to protect Palestinian lives, going door to door. It is extremely dangerous. They don't just bomb Palestinian peoples indiscriminately. This broad is a liar. Contrary to what she thinks, the Israeli Defense Forces actually brings wounded and maimed Palestinians into Israeli territory proper to relieve treatment for wounds that they incurred as a result of their own leadership using them as human shields. She knows this. She knows this. What is this broad talking about? Israel bombing people. The Palestinian population has continued to grow exponentially. If Israel wanted to, this little bitty airstrip, if Israel wanted to, did she know that by the end or near the end of the Yom Kippur War, mind you, the day after Israel was given statehood, not just Israel, But when the United Nations, I forgot which resolution it was, I used to know the number by heart, came up with the two-state solution. Israel was told, the Palestinian peoples were told by the lead spokesperson of the Arab League to vacate Palestine and consider the area to be a war zone. They invaded the newly formed state of Israel on May 15th, 1948, the day after the UN voted on the resolution. Israel didn't even have a chance to offend any Arab country because 5 Arab League nations, Saudi Arabia or Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and I think Iraq, if I'm not mistaken, all 5 Arab League states attacked Israel the very next day. They were fighting a war on 5 different fronts in 1948. That's why you have this so-called refugee crisis, because their own leadership told them to leave. Because a lot of this radicalism, remember, I brought up Saeed Qutb earlier. Remember, because the Egyptian Brotherhood was founded in Egypt. Saeed Qutb was an Egyptian. Gamal Nasser was a Marxist Egyptian president who wanted to nationalize the Suez Canal. Oh, and that's another reason why Mossadegh was deposed, because he was trying to nationalize Iranian industries to keep it out of the hands of British capitalists. So there's so much. So going back to what I was saying, this is the point I wanted to make, because there's so much wrong with what you said, Keisha. I can't even.
I know.
The Gazan people, they're firing rockets. They're firing these rockets, what they're called Katyushas. Katyushas. These were rocket technologies that were created by the Soviet Union. They're using weapons that were created by the Soviet Union. These old, outdated rockets called Katyushas. Wow. Each rocket approximately costs about $300. You know about the Israeli Iron Dome system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hamas paid, and we haven't even talked about the JCPOA, the Iranian. We didn't even talk about that.
It is a lot. And that's part of it. It's like people who take these very complex and, kind of difficult situations in world history and all this stuff and try to make it like, well, it's just that, this one did this. And so when is anything just that simple, especially when we're talking about war and all of this kinds of stuff, and in the Middle East, things that have been going on for thousands of years. For somebody to be that reckless. And when you're calling yourself a Christian, because that part of the world matters for us.
So stupid.
And so you can't be, the reason why we're passionate about this is because for somebody to say they're Christian, have this much quote unquote influence, and be this wrong is a problem. If you come across anybody, I don't care who it is, that's trying to just make it so simple and this is what it is, be skeptical. Use some discernment and be skeptical.
A special pleader for Iran. Boy, I tell you. Again, they're firing these rockets. Each rocket costs approximately $300. Israel's Iron Dome system, right? It's their missile defense system.
Mm-hmm.
Each missile that they use to shoot down a Katyush costs approximately $100,000.
Dang.
So Israel is spending $100,000 just to knock down a $300 rocket. This is the cost that they're willing to pay because they do not want to engage in a full-scale eradication of the peoples in Gaza.
Yeah.
Because Israel is a righteous nation. Israel is a just nation. It's not a perfect nation, of course, because they sure as hell got their fair share of leftists. I can guarantee you that.
And guess what? They're human beings, of course. Right. Just because they chosen don't mean that they don't. They didn't even. Anyway, go ahead.
Benjamin Netanyahu was steadfast against what God damn, I'm forgetting the Israeli prime minister in 2006 when
Oh,
Israel left the Gaza Strip, and they told him, said, man, this is going to be disastrous. There's videos. Ariel Sharon. Thank you. Israel had to forcibly remove their own citizens from their homes. Kids, it's all on video of people crying, screaming, just agony, sorrow, did not want to be removed from Gaza. They said, we have to get all of the Israelis out of Gaza. Israel, you talk about relocation and resettlement. The only time Israel has ever resettled anybody is when they forcibly removed their own citizens from the Strip. And then, of course, what did the Palestinians proceed to do? They famously proceeded to tear down the infrastructure and use the destroyed byproducts of those old greenhouses to make weapons of war, to make weapons of terrorism. And they proceeded to elect Hamas in 2006, and they've never had another election in almost 20 years.
Oh no, but you know, and I came across this other clip, and we're going to be wrapping it up soon because my husband.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to do a part 2 on
this.
But,
I ain't even touched it.
Yeah, I know there's so much. There's so much.
Because we ain't talking about the Iranian their nuclear proliferation. It didn't stop in 2003. It went on, and again, we didn't even talk about the Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA. None of that. We didn't even get to it. But you know, again, maybe you'll come back.
Testifying before Congress, she's just trying to give them the high, Tulsi Gabbard. She's just trying to get, give the American people like the high level notes. You know what I mean? Of what intelligence and whatever they found. So it's not going to be like this whole detailed thing, but you could read between the lines when she was saying, well, no, they haven't authorized they haven't approved a new nuclear thing, but they have also, if you heard her, pulled back from having any discussions about nuclear weapons. So it was kind of like, we don't really know. We can't rely on their information. I mean, this is not my area, but I can listen, and I don't have an agenda, so I can see clearly. My agenda is to the lamb, not to the donkey or the elephant. So let's get that clear.
And some genius in the comment section talking about Benjamin Netanyahu being on tape talking about how America is his plaything. Yeah, the same exact right. The same way in which Barack Obama was caught on a hot mic telling the Russians that, don't worry, tell Vladimir I'll have more leeway after I get elected. Yeah. Leaders say things all the time. Leaders get caught on hot mic saying things all the time. They're secretly recorded phone calls between Ronald Reagan and Richard Nixon, where Ronald Reagan is making jokes about Africans. And you see, I got a Ronald Reagan shirt on right now. I couldn't care less about what Benjamin Netanyahu thinks about the American body politic and how we're his little plaything. What the hell are you even talking about, man?
Okay.
What are you talking about? Like seriously, this is the level of discussion. This is the level of this. Just go ahead, Keisha. Play a clip because I know you gotta get out of here. Yes. I know you gotta get out of here. But I'm sorry, Keisha, but whose plaything was Barack Obama? Whose plaything was Bill Clinton?
Well, he had
but I'm just saying in terms of geopolitics. Let's leave the freaky stuff alone because we know Bill Clinton liked to get out.
Okay.
But remember when Bill Clinton vowed in 1996 that North Korea would never have a nuclear weapon? Now we have to deal with a nuclear armed North Korea, and Iran is worse than them.
Okay.
The reason why the issue persists today is because of Iran's tactics, because of Iran's actions over the past 30 freaking years. The same reason why our politicians did the things that they did in the 1990s with respect to Iraq, because Saddam Hussein flouted the authorities of UN weapons inspectors for almost 10 years, which eventually culminated in the removal of UN weapons inspectors from Iran in 1998, which caused the Congress to pass Operation Iraqi Freedom. And then Bill Clinton went ahead and executed Operation Desert Fox. This was before George W. Bush invaded Iraq in 2003, 2004. But Iraq was already on Bill Clinton's radar because of what Saddam Hussein had been doing in violation of the peace agreement that was brokered by the UN at the end of Desert Storm. But we're going to talk about that too, because people don't even know the history of Saddam Hussein and what really took place in this whole controversy about weapons of mass destruction. These people don't even know what they're talking about. Who was Jimmy Carter's plaything?
This is what I'm saying. Like, this stuff is too complicated. You can't take a side comment from, even if he's on camera, even if let's say he said something even worse.
I don't care.
That's
because
not,
Barack Obama.
Of the thing of the situation, especially something like war.
You're
think that they could bully America like that? Like,
no.
I'm sorry.
You're dealing with complicated questions of life and death.
Yes.
War and peace is not a game. It's not just a huge ass book that I know this person in the comment section didn't read. It's more than that.
Yeah.
These are serious questions. We live in the world is more interconnected than it has ever been. How in the world do you expect to bring together so many disparate peoples, disparate factions, disparate countries with their own agendas, their own goals, their own plans, and their own ambitions? How do you expect fallen peoples, to share this spinning rock without tearing each other apart? These people act like the answer to that question is simply ideological when it's not. It's not that simple. It's not that simple. But again, so somebody always got to be somebody's plaything. I bet, huh? Anyway, go ahead, Keisha. I'm out of the conversation. I don't have time for fools, man. I take myself too seriously. I don't suffer fools.
Okay, Mr.
But ain't nobody Jewish stopping me from doing nothing.
Okay. What does that sound like? Who does that sound like? How are all these Jewish people stopping everybody from accomplishing their goals? Sounds very much like the black folks talking about how the white folk, now they can't do nothing because of white people. Sounds very woke to me. Anyway, as we're wrapping up, what do you, first I want to say thank you so much to Alethea for the super sticker. I really appreciate it. If you want to support the channel, please, you can do a super chat, super sticker, hit me on my Cash App if you want to support Chuck as well. I think what is your
so my YouTube?
Yeah,
YouTube
your Cash App.
I think it's a little $sign. I think it's Chuck 0716. Something I don't forgot. I don't even know, man. Okay. I don't forgot.
Well,
y'all find me. Yeah.
Go look him up. Teach him Chuck on YouTube or Instagram. You can find him there. Excuse me. So my last question for you is, so Patrick Bet-David, he talks about which I was very surprised because he's said some crazy stuff. But he's from he's from Iran.
Yeah.
So he was like when it's funny how things kind of change when you actually know some history, because this whole thing about, you remember he was like trying to dig at the Jews too. He ain't really doing that much. I just want to show you what he says. He's talking to some other people who have been on this anti-Jewish thing. Listen to what he says.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, share this. Let me do that. Bring it up. Oh, hold on. Stop. I have these in Florida. We get these fruit flies, and we've been buying a bunch of fruit and stuff, so they're so annoying. Why is this not letting me understand? Okay, I want to add to stage before remove other me. What am I? Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, there we go. All right. So
Small. That was a big statement.
Do you have it?
No, I couldn't find
I
it.
thought you had one of them up there that you were showing. AIPAC, Qatar. There's actual money being spent right now on propaganda, whether it's AIPAC, Qatar, different people that are putting up there. Do you think people are being paid to spew propaganda today?
Yes.
1,000%.
Do you think they are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody on
Do you
every
think so?
side.
Okay, so then let me ask you
On
this
every
question.
side.
Do you think any of it has worked on you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would be. Yeah. I mean, anybody who says no,
Everybody's
is a
swayed a
liar.
certain way by stuff that they
Yeah.
see and they read
Yeah,
and they.
So then what do you do so it doesn't get a hold of you?
Facts. Facts don't care about if you are going for facts, actual facts, then you're going to get swayed either way. If you watch
So Vinny is more on the Candace side. He
Okay.
thinks Israel is terrible.
And that guy down at the bottom there, who
Uh-huh.
I guess is commenting on this Patrick Bet David show here. That guy there, I've
Mhm.
seen him before. He's Jewish.
Oh,
This
he
guy
is.
there.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a Mizrahi Jew. I don't know him personally, but I've seen him around the internet.
Okay.
And of course, I think I'm trying to remember. I think he does live in Israel. He talks a lot about how his family had to flee Iraq when all the Jews began getting exterminated during the when the rise of the global jihad. But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say that because you may think he has the welcome to Iran sign, but as you can see the fire, you can see the fire and the smoke in the background. He's mocking Iranians, but he's a pro-Israeli, he's a pro-Israeli Jew,
Yeah.
and an Arab Jew, a Mizrahi Jew. But go ahead.
Okay. I'm fast forwarding a little bit
That's
because
it. I don't think
you don't think facts.
No, because even facts can be. Even the other day, guy responds from 19.
So his point is, he said even facts can be misleading, and he's about to show you something really important.
41 to 79, 77. How many people died in the Middle East because of wars?
So what year?
So it's very simple. Go to ChatGPT, Rob. Ask this question. From 41, when the Shah was president, to 77. Okay, till 77. This video I posted, retweeted because of Bill Ackman. Bill Ackman retweeted this video, something we talked about on the podcast a couple of days ago. It was posted on this other parody account, and it got 10 million views, but it also got a lot of hate and commentary on it. A video from us. So go back to ChatGPT, Rob, and ask the question from 41 to 77, how many wars were started by Iran, Israel, and then ask the question, how many people died in the Middle East during that time? And what is 41 to 1977? How long is that, Vinny? 30 what? 30 to be exact.
36.
So what we're going to do is we're going to measure 36 to 36. Pre-Shah, post-Shah.
Okay.
Okay? So Israel, wars and conflict wars, Israel was involved in. Arab-Israel war, war of independence. Death toll, 15 to 20,000, 6,000 Israelis, 9 to 15,000 as Arabs. Suez crisis, Israel, UK, France, 3,000 total. Egyptians, Israelis, British, French. The Six-Day War, 1967, 20,000 Arabs, 800 Israelis. The Yom Kippur War, 8 to 19,000 combined, 2,600, 2,000 Israelis. Iran did not start any major wars. None under Pahlavi.
Okay, now this is a fact. Now remember what he said about that. They didn't start.
I see where he's going. I see where he's going.
All right.
Go ahead. Keep it rolling. I see where he's going.
Iran was involved in some border skirmishes, but no declared wars. That's my point. I don't care what Israel does. Iran is my main point of common denominator here. Vinny, this is how many people they started wars with. Iran. Okay? 36 years. And by the way, all of these wars that Israel started, Yes, they get credit for starting wars.
Well, I wouldn't say started.
Hang on a
They were
second.
attacks.
Some attacks. But what I'm trying to say to you is, yes, some of them was instigated by Israel. Say, okay? But what do you see with Iran during that time?
It wasn't.
What does it unequivocally say
Iran did not start any major wars
during this period? The only thing they did is what? Protect their border.
Yep.
That's how many years? That's when the Shah was under leadership.
36.
Now, do me a favor. What's 36 plus 77? What's 36 plus 77? So you got 23, 2013, I think.
13.
Okay. So if you go to now do the same thing and type in the same exact thing, except change it 78 to 2013. This is data. You said you like facts, right? That's how to not fall for propaganda.
Of course.
Let's do it. I don't know what it's going to say, by the way. So
I mean, just
wars
Iraq
and
war was
campaigns.
1 million.
Watch this. 82 Lebanon war, first Lebanon war, Israel invaded Lebanon, blah, 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 PLO, 15 to 20,000. Gaza wars, 1,400 Palestinians, 160 Palestinians. So you got two of them right there that Israel started. Iran, ready? Iran was a major city in proxy wars. Iran-Iraq, 1980-88. 500,000 to 1 million. Support the Hezbollah.
What?
Okay.
What was
Then
that?
you got post-2003 Iran conflict. Death toll. What's the total count there? Go a little bit lower. What are you looking at there?
I'm gonna pause it for a second. For those of you who might not understand, he took the 36 years of Israel's conflicts and listed the death tolls. And we heard the numbers. Some of them was some of them was in the negative. Okay. You got, you had 2,000 here, 3,000 there. I think the highest was probably 20,000. When you get to Iran, on paper, they didn't start any war, but look how many wars that they have been involved in, and look at the amount of destruction of the lives. Since Candace wants to talk about the murder, and it's so wrong, and well, why you ain't got the smoke for Iran and all these bodies on their hands? Why you don't have smoke? And this is, we ain't even got to go back to the 60s. This we talking about recent history. Anyway, I'm gonna let him keep going and run these so y'all can hear these numbers.
Estimated death toll, 825 to 1.6 million. Who's the common denominator? Is it still you're still gonna what is it? I thought like Iran is a peaceful regime.
I never said
Vinny, but what I'm trying to say is if we know the common denominator that gets people to shake and shiver is one country. It's only Israel. And I don't blame you. I get it. Like sometimes, like even when people have TDS, you know what I say? I get it. Because Trump is a little bit what? What's Trump?
Chaotic.
Is Trump cocky?
Yeah.
100%.
Is he super confident?
Yes.
Is he a guy that'll call your ass out nonstop?
Yes.
Does he give a shit whether your name is, you're an ally, you're this, you're that? He does that nonstop, right? Okay. Guess what? Does Israelis think a little bit highly of themselves?
Yes.
Do they think they're better than you?
Yes.
Do they sometimes give you the vibe that their shit don't
Yep.
stink? Yes or no?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. And how do we feel about people like that?
We don't like them.
I never liked them when I was in high school, people like that. I didn't get along with people like that. I'm a 1.8 GPA guy in school. I'm a regular guy that came up in school. So I understand both deranged syndromes. But you said facts are facts. Those are facts for you. Pre-78, the Middle East was at peace for the most part. Post-chaos. What is the common denominator? The Hezbollahs, the Mullahs, Khomeini, Rafsanjani, all of those guys cause chaos. And they don't want to do business with you. They don't want to do business with capitalism and all these other guys. They don't. So this is the part when I say, has propaganda ever gotten a hold of you? Like, hey, I know for a fact.
Exactly. You think that your view, I'm gonna say we think our people you be thinking your view is so pure, it's so right, it's so on point. Everybody's idea, you need to kick the tires on your own ideas because it might not be good. Like it might be actually trash. Hey, 02122. But I wanted to play this. So you could respond if you felt like it, and so the chat could hear and see it on paper from a man who is from Iran. He said, these people have been a problem for, since they've been in charge. It ain't been cool over there. But Israel's the problem. Go ahead. if you don't have anything, that's fine too.
Yeah, I get his point. He's right. I mean, his point stands, and his point is well taken. I mean, I won't even try and split hairs here. I mean, he was, talking about, some of the wars were instigated by Israel. Some of them were preemptive strikes that were, based upon their own, based upon their own intelligence. Sometimes in order to have a strategic advantage in a war, sometimes it behooves you to attack first. Doesn't mean that it's your fault. Doesn't mean that you provoked it. When I think about those 5 major wars prior to the Iranian Revolution, you're talking about the war for Israeli independence. You're talking about the Suez War, the War of the Suez, control of Suez. You have the 6-Day War, and you have Yom Kippur. I think I may have been missing one, but anyway, Israel did strike Egypt first in the conflict over the Suez. But other than that, every single solitary war that Patrick Bet-David was referring to, Israel was fighting a war of self-defense against multiple Arab countries at once that was backed by the largest geographical empire in the world at the time, which was the Soviet Union. Egypt was the Soviet Union's major ally in the region. Gamal Nasser was the major lapdog of Nikita Khrushchev. Not only that, but one of Egypt's main propaganda ministers was a former Nazi who converted to Islam and changed his name to Omar Amin. He's a white German. And he was one of Gamal Nasser's top allies. Gamal Nasser, of course, was the president at the time during the Suez crisis. The fact of the matter is that this is a fact, that Arabs waged a war against Jews first. That is a fact. I hate to take it back. I know I'm going to sound like some little kid on the playground, but the reality is that the Muslims started this. The Arabs, they started this, going all the way back to 1920, starting with the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. They started this. The Israelis came peaceful at the behest and under the protectorate of the British Empire, because as the old saying goes, to the victor go the spoils.
That's correct.
The Ottoman Empire and their allies lost. When Jerusalem, the promised land, as somebody mentioned the fact, talking about the Messiah returning, and we're all destined to worship in Jerusalem or praying toward Jerusalem. I don't know how the end times is going to go. I'm not my eschatology. Ask somebody else about that. But all I know is when Jerusalem was under the control of the Turks, it became a rundown, swamp-ridden, malaria-infested hellhole that the Jews had to come and restore the promised land back to its former glory after Turkish Muslims had destroyed the Holy Land, after they had defeated the Franks once and for all, when Mehmet II destroyed the Byzantine Empire, defeated the Crusaders coming from the West, and the Sultanate, the Caliph of the Turkish Empire, reigned over Jerusalem. It wasn't until the British Empire destroyed the Ottoman Empire and the Jews were invited back as proper custodians of their ancient homeland. Or they talk about indigenous peoples, right? Indigenous peoples. Well, you can say, well, the Jews aren't today's Jews. I'm not into that. You better call 23andMe and do a DNA check on everybody. I don't got time for that. All I know is that the Jews are indigenous to Judea. Judea. And Arabs are indigenous to the Arabian Peninsula. a band of roving pagans that were converted at the point of the sword by Muhammad and his small band of followers. And here we are now. Islam is the second largest religion in the world. Fast forward, here we are. We got to deal with it. That's just the way it is.
And they are taking over Europe. For those who think it's not coming here. Okay.
And
what did you say? You when you were on with I don't think it was with me. I think it was when you were on with the real ISO. You said you were talking about the thin veil of civility. I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
I felt like it was like the perfect way to say it.
Civility. Yeah. I'm sorry, Kate. And mind you, I know you're gonna make a point, ask me a question. I gotta mention it. If you go through the whole of the Quran, Jerusalem is not even mentioned in the Quran, not once. Not once. Jerusalem, the holiest site, according to Islam, is the Dome of the Rock, where they claim Muhammad ascended. But they claim that's why it's called the Al-Aqsa Mosque. I think in Arabic, I think it means Jerusalem. But it's supposedly one of the holiest sites in Islam because of that very fact. But of course, it's sacred to Jews, but the Muslims want to take it over. Because you talk about replacement, yeah, that's what Muslims want to do. Not just replace Jews and Christians religiously, but they want to punish them in this life.
Right.
For their refusal.
They're the little Satan and we're the big.
For their refusal to believe, because they are to be, according to the Quran, punished in this life and in the next life. So, like you said, the veil of civility is thin, and I don't think people here in America really know what they're up against. And I just want to make one more point, and we're gonna get up out of here. I hear Candace make, I don't know if Candace made this point. Somebody made this point under one of my posts when I posted a reel the other day. I reposted something that I posted on my IG page over a year ago, talking about does America have the will to carry on? Because again, if we're not willing to fight, or we're not willing to defend ourselves, we might as well pack up ship now. It's over. We're done. All it takes is the right push, and it's over. Because we're nothing but a paper tiger. Because our morale has been crippled to the point it is beyond recognition. Okay, big
influencers saying, America's kind of terrible.
People,
I mean, why do you need an enemy?
But people have said to me, "Well, Chuck, you ain't gonna go fight. You ain't gonna. First of all, you don't know what I would do. But set that aside for a second. Let's just say I'm not. Okay, like I said before, these people run around as if military servicemen dying in war is to be this huge moral outcry, as if we don't have an all-volunteer military. No one is being conscripted. Part of the reason why we have such a sophisticated military is because, given the principles that undergird our civilization, we allow for, as the old saying goes, the cream to rise to the top. That's what happens when you live in liberal, open, free societies. You tend to be more technologically advanced than a society that's dictatorial, which acts as a parasite onto its own people. But there's more to whether or not a society, who's more suited to win a war and so forth. It goes a little bit deeper than that. But again, given the current state, the status of warfare in the world today, we are at a great advantage because of our technological advancement. But our technological advancement has a lot to do with our freedoms in the first place. But just going back to this whole question of war, people talking about Chuck, you're not going to send your kids up. You're not going to be the one. Why don't you go do this?
Oh yeah,
they use that as a tool of emotional blackmail, as a cudgel to make their weak political points, because these people are ideologues, because in their minds there is no fight worth having. There is no time where America should involve itself in anything militarily. Just wait until it comes and meets you on your front doorstep, I suppose. But again, the reason why we have such a great nation is due to our high degree of specialization. It's called division of labor, Keisha. Everybody doesn't have to be in the military. It doesn't work that way. Do you believe in a representative government or not? Because the last time I checked, we the people elect through the democratic process our commander-in-chief, which makes military decisions on our behalf. Our military is in principle civilian controlled. So I get to say through my representative what my military does and does not do. Keisha, if you have a problem, if you need to call a police officer because your life is in danger, you dial 911. Do you expect the police officer to show up and put his or her life on the line, potentially to save you? A fireman, if you're trapped in a burning building, do you expect them to come and put their life on the line to save you? They knew what the job entailed when they assumed the role. That's why they took it.
Yes.
Or they bypassed the risk of doing the job because for whatever reason, for whatever hidden incentive that they had, they chose to do the job.
Yeah.
How would that fireman look showing up to your doorstep? How would that police officer look showing up to you saying, you know what, I'm not going to put my life on the line for you. Have you ever been a police officer? Have you ever put the uniform on? Are you going to die for somebody? Negro, you signed up to be a police officer. That's your job. Now protect me.
Right.
What you mean? I don't get no say in what the military. What you mean? So that's how we plan this now.
And
that's how we plan this now.
Said the last time when you brought this up, you strip away their honor. When you said this, it hit home because you are so right. There are some men where dying for their country would be, it is honorable for them. How dare you try to take that away from them? Because some men have dreamt to fight for their country. That is their purpose in life.
Keisha,
that is what God has purposed them to do. How dare you try to be like, oh no, I don't think you should do that there because
it's terrible reasons. Liberal minded, but you know who is willing to die though. Let me go straight to Article 8 of Hamas's own charter. It reads, Article 8, Islamic Jihad. Jihad is its path, and death for the sake of Allah is the loftiest of its wishes. They want to die for Allah. Don't you understand that? They want to die for Allah. You see. And this is my last point, Keisha, and I'm gone. We can close out. The question, and Ronald Reagan said as much, and if you all have never listened to Ronald Reagan's Time for Choosing speech, that speech will have you ready to run through a wall. A Time for Choosing, Ronald Reagan, 1964, when he endorsed Barry Goldwater for president of the United States. Even if you don't watch the entire speech or read it, just go and just watch like the last 5 minutes of Ronald Reagan's A Time for Choosing speech. He said that the question, I'm paraphrasing. The question is hard, but simple. And what he means is that's what morality is. Morality is hard, but the difference between right and wrong is simple. I was listening to Andrew Klavan the other day, the old filthy Jew. I was listening to Andrew Klavan the other day, and he made a point to talk about abortion, and he paralleled it to the whole war question about war, right? You don't always win a war. You don't always do the right things in war. But sometimes going to war is the righteous thing to do. Since Candace Owens cares so much about innocent children, sometimes you have to go to war and win a war in order to prevent more casualties than what would have otherwise been had it not been for your actions, because people are going to die. That's the way life is. And so Andrew Klavan talked about abortion, right? He said that it's not about if it's a when the defeat is viable. Does it feel pain? Is it this? Is it that? He said, that's a human being. Anything else, any justification or rationalization, that's just an excuse, right? I understand, right? Sometimes having a child, it's hard. You don't want to have a child, but you don't get to kill a human being just because it will make your life easier, because killing a human being is wrong. Simple question with a simple answer, but it's a hard one. Because it's gonna be hard, especially if you don't have the means to take care of the child. It's gonna be tough on you. But it's an easy question,
Mhm.
but it's a hard answer. And that's war.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just got to be. But you don't get to kill a human being just because you want to make your life easier. You don't get to just hide under a rock and think that the boogeyman is going to go away.
Correct.
It don't work that way.
And if people who call themselves Christians would take a few moments, I'm going to bring you down, Chuck, but don't go anywhere yet. If you can stay, just give me one.
Go ahead. I'm chilling. Go ahead.
These issues are the things that I lost my train of thought. But let me just say this. When we are looking at these issues, if you are a Bible believing person, you want to make sure that you're not going off a commentary, that you're not going off of Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson or Donald Trump. I don't care who the person is. You need to look at what the Bible says. If you are a believer, and you're reading your Bible, you understand war. Why do you understand war? Because you understand sin. And you understand that on this side of heaven, these are the things that we have to contend with. We saw God tell Israel to wipe out whole people group, all of them. After a while, but we've seen God himself do that. So miss me with the, oh my God, you can tell God that, Candace. Tell God that he was wrong to tell Israel, for Israel to go and be, taking out whole people groups. But that is what God had commanded them to do. Now, I'm not saying that God is, the prime minister of Israel or the president of America. That neither of those people are God. And so they can, yes, get war wrong. But my point is that we've seen war since the Bible. So let's not act like, that God has not been showing us that this is what can happen. Anyway, you guys, I just want to say thank you. Let me say another thank you for these super stickers. So Alethea, thank you so very much. Coltrane, a $20 super chat, says, just a side note, the Jews aren't God's chosen in the New Testament. Christians are. A lot of Christians, especially Protestants, still believe that. Plus, there's no such thing as a Judeo-Christian. There's Jewish or Christian. Okay, we've talked about this. I need to see, where's the evidence? Show me where the Jews are not God's chosen in the New Testament. God says, I am the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. God says gifts. What does he say? That God's gifts and his call are irrevocable. That's what the man upstairs, that's what God said. He's talking, this is Romans 11:29. Romans 11:1. Did God reject his people? By no means. This is the New Testament. God did not reject his people whom he foreknew. Romans 11:17. Do not consider yourself to be superior to those branches. You do not support the root, but it is the root, the Israel, that supports you. New Testament. Y'all go read Romans. Go read the Corinthians. I think they talk about this in Ephesians. There's plenty. Go read your Bible. Let's see. 02122 says the importance of this discussion is real. So I ran to the comments. Very good. You're always with the brilliant, witty remarks. We love it. Thank you so much. And then we have a super sticker from my husband. Thank you, husband. I love you. Let's see. Coltrane again. Sam Shimon has a video on YouTube explaining bad theology and addresses what I was talking about in my last super chat. Wait a minute, I thought y'all didn't like Bible commentary. I thought y'all told me that Schofield was just Bible commentary and we should just disregard that. Why should I trust Sam Shamoon and not Schofield? Like what's the difference? Okay, so what does the Bible say, Coltrane? Like, give me some scripture to back this up. Y'all, Candace, where is the scripture to back these things up? Like I said, this has been a long held debate. This issue is not a salvific issue. If you believe, if you are premillennialist, an amillennialist, a beaver, whatever, if you believe in Christ, if your heart has been renewed, your mind renewed, and you have placed your Jesus Lord over your life, accepted the free gift of salvation, you will be saved. Now, there are some other benefits to being a Christian that, we can enjoy right here, right now. And it still ain't got nothing to do if the Jews are saved or not saved, how they get saved, if they get saved, or any of that stuff. It is not salvific. These ideas have been debated for hundreds of years at this point, because this came out in like the late 1800s. Okay. Just because it's not, it wasn't how the early church, how the Catholics saw the end times, doesn't mean it was right. They could have been wrong. Just like when Jesus was walking with the Jews, and there were some of them who understood, because remember, the Jews were expecting a literal, an earthly king to free them from the oppression of Rome. That was it. They weren't thinking about a king that was coming to restore the entire earth. So they was missing it in real time. So my point is, you could be missing it too, even though that situation was much more pertinent than this one, but you could still be missing it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for Alethea says also Romans 9 through 11. Okay, it's a lot of stuff in this good book. It's not so simple. Stop trying to just simplify everything and just make it like, oh, it's just this. It can be complicated. Y'all ain't the first ones who've had these thoughts and these ideas. Okay, the reason why this is still debated is because there is no scripture that I see more support for so-called dispensationalism, as far as like the Jews being like we're not replacing them. I see more support Bible scriptures for that than I do some kind of, oh well, now it's the Christians and we're going to do away with Israel's not important, and God talks about Israel and the Jews in Revelation. So, I mean, but I'm sorry. That's right. That's just allegory and it's symbolism. Right. Okay. But so is it symbolism when he talks about the Jews as being the synagogue of Satan? Because that's in Revelation too. Like when God says that there are some Jews and these Jews are the synagogue of Satan, is that symbolism or is that allegorical? Because I feel like y'all like to pick and choose. Anyway, thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Make sure you look out for videos from me coming throughout the week. Thank you to Jesus Loves You and Denise. I appreciate you guys so much. Everybody who supported the channel, share. Please share this and like the video. Share it out. Share it to people who might be having some, crazy ideas about, starting to go down that road of hating one group of people. Maybe this will help. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.